What better time to do a ranking of everything I watched in 2024 than on the 20th of January, 2025?
For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Hello and welcome to what is going to be an absolute pain in the ass to edit. The longest video, it's definitely going to be the longest video. It's going to be like movie length, ranking all 100 movies that I watched in 2024. And oh god, I'm not looking forward to this. There we go. That's slightly better. So, there is exactly 100 movies. So, I had about 93, which is still way more than I usually watch in 1 year. But I am OCD and I like things to be like perfect, but well, that's OCD or what. But I love things to be like a nice flat number. So of course, 100 is logically what I had to do. And it was the 31st of December. And I was still at 96, so I had 4 movies to watch. And this is, just for clarification, not movies of 2024, although of course they will be here. This is everything I watched in 2024. So I guess let's start off with the bottom of the barrel. Number 100, the worst movie I watched last year. That is going to be Dark Phoenix. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying that there are probably maybe 3 or 4 movies above this which I would say are objectively, they are worse. They are worse movies than Dark Phoenix, but you've got to look at it from my perspective. You know, it could very well be just, you know, when I watched the movie. I binged, well, no, I didn't binge, but I watched the entire X-Men franchise probably within maybe a week, you know, maybe 10 days, you know, around about there. So I watched X-Men The Last Stand, and then only a few days later, Dark Phoenix. And this is literally just remaking X-Men The Last Stand, except it is much more boring. It doesn't really make much sense in terms of continuity and stuff. You can tell that the actors don't really care anymore because at this point, you know, Fox had already been bought out by Disney. So they were like, this is not going to be going anywhere. Because most franchises, when they decide, you know what, this is going to be our last movie, we're going to go out with a bang. Here it was like, well, the universe is done, it's pointless, let's not give a shit. So, yeah, Dark Phoenix is definitely the worst X-Men movie in my opinion. And honestly, even if I had watched it, like, if I had watched it in real time, like as they came out in cinemas, I probably would have been more disappointed. But yeah, either way, this is going right to the bottom for me. Then, coming in at number 99 is going to be Madam Web. This is... oh my god! How did Sony realize this? Like, this movie is so bad that the actresses don't even want to acknowledge its existence. This movie is so bad, it caused Kraven the Hunter, a movie which released 10 months after this, to fail at the box office. This movie is so bad. Full stop. Oh my god, how did this get made? The fact that Sony, before it even came out, said this is in a separate universe from Venom and Morbius, it's not the same universe. The fact that they had to say that, they knew that this movie was going to be rubbish, they knew that it wasn't going to be loved by anyone, and honestly, if you took your partner to go and watch this on Valentine's Day, you deserve bad luck for the rest of your life, because my god, this is absolutely atrocious. There's really nothing else to say about this movie that others haven't already said. So yeah, let's just move on to number 98, shall we? Number 98 is going to be, and this is very disappointing for me, is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Now, the Conjuring franchise, I actually really liked starting off because I haven't watched all the movies. I've only seen the main Conjuring movies and Annabelle. The first Conjuring is probably my favorite, if not one of my favorite horror films of all time. I love it. I really, really do. The second one, It is still really good. It's just not as scary as the first one because, of course, they're showing the demons more. It's not as scary, and also it's a bit too long. But this third movie is so fucking boring. It is unbelievable. There is nothing good about this movie. The directing is nowhere near James Wan level because, of course, this is not James Wan. And this is 2025, so we are going to be getting the final Conjuring movie this year. And I'm not even excited for it because it's the same creative team as the ones that made this piece of garbage. There's nothing scary in it. There's not really any cool shots. Not even a cool villain. It's just a person. And, I will give props to this movie. It does feature the first death in the main Conjuring movies because, as I've said, I've only seen Annabelle. And in Annabelle, the nurse, not nurse, the librarian woman, jumped out the window. But I think that was the first death in the franchise, as far as on-screen goes. But here, let's just kill the dude. And then all of a sudden she gets dragged to hell. So this movie sucks. It's really, really terrible. So, yeah. Speaking of terrible horror movies, let's go on to number 97. Coming in at number 97 is a movie that infuriates me more because it's not just the fact that I had to watch it, but I made others watch it. So, it is The Strangers Chapter 1. Now, that original Strangers movie is, in my opinion, probably the most effective horror film you could have because there's no supernatural edge to it, there's no demons, there's no insane durability killers a la Michael Myers, none of that. It's just a home invasion. And there's so many things about that movie that are so iconic, especially obviously the shot, the shot. And when we heard that The Strangers Chapter 1 is getting released, which is going to be a prequel, I was like, okay, let's see what they can do with this, because obviously you don't want to ruin the mystery of The Strangers, which really is what Chapter 2 and 3 is going to do. But I was really excited for this one, because as I've said, love the first Strangers. Second one is also really good. This was the laziest movie I think I've ever watched. Worse than the 2019 Lion King, because that movie, you're remaking a movie which at least people can sing along to, even if it's not as exciting or emotional, it's tolerable. The Strangers, you don't really look at The Strangers and go, let's remake that movie. But it wasn't marketed as a remake, it was marketed as a prequel. So why? So I was asking one of my friends for so long, because she likes horror. I was like, please, would you like to watch The Strangers? And unfortunately, the opportunity never arose to where we could actually go and see it in the cinemas. And then before we knew it, it was on digital. So we're like, pointless going to the cinema now. So then I was asking my sister, and we went out that day, and we were gonna watch it in the afternoon. And I was like, okay, so this is what happened in the original Strangers. The phones went into the fire, the friggin' smoke detector ended up on the seat and all this. They killed an innocent person. I don't think I can express my embarrassment when we were watching the movie and it was the same fucking thing. It beat for beat in the same movie. Oh my god. It's Dark Phoenix. It is Dark Phoenix. That is why it's down here. Because they remade the first movie and made it worse. Oh my god. I really don't know what they were thinking with this. And honestly, it's just time I move on to something else. Coming in at number 96 is going to be Kung Fu Panda 4. A movie which, on most people's list, will probably be a lot higher. However, Kung Fu Panda is my favorite movie trilogy of all time. The only thing that comes close is the Planet of the Apes trilogy. And even it's neck and neck, but actually no, it's not. Kung Fu Panda definitely clears it. But the first two Kung Fu Panda movies, absolutely flawless, definition of perfect movies. Third film, more kid-oriented, I will give it that, but still, fantastic conclusion to the trilogy. Then you have the fourth movie. This is one of the most disrespectful movies I have ever seen in my life. They they like speak to the fans of the previous movies and say, you know what, fuck all of you, we're doing our own thing with Zhen, a character who no one cares about, but really what they did with the villains was unforgivable, because they brought back Tai Lung, which, to be fair, that is probably the best sequence of the movie, is when Tai Lung gets brought back and he gets that cool little fight with the iguana, Komodo, whatever the fuck they were. It was really cool, because that was like, yeah, that's my Tai Lung, and then of course he gets beaten. But you bring in Lord Shen, one of the best animated villains in history, and you don't bring back Gary Oldman. Hell, you don't even bring back anyone to voice him. You just chuck him in, who really, I don't know if Shen would even be here, but one person who definitely shouldn't be here is Kai, because Kai did not just die, okay? He didn't end up in the spirit realm. He was a spirit warrior. His spirit got destroyed. He fucking blew up. Why is Kai here? It doesn't make sense. But even when you look at the main villain of the movie, the chameleon, who, just the concept of it, a shape-shifting sorceress, is so fucking cool, and they bottle it. Her entire excuse for doing everything is, I wanted to do kung fu, but I was small, so they wouldn't let me. That's your motivation. That's, oh god, this movie is just absolutely atrocious. It is disgraceful. It's insulting, and you know what? I'm honestly, while I'm on this of disrespectful fuck movies in franchises, let's move on to number 95, which is going to be Descendants: The Rise of Red. The Descendants franchise is, obviously, it's a Disney Channel franchise. It's a, Disney Channel movies. You're not going to expect some like Oscar level writing, things like that. These are just movies that have fun, So I remember watching that first Descendants movie back in 2015. And I was like, okay, this is a really cool concept. I'm liking this. I like it more than things like High School Musical, Camp Rock, all this. But I was like, okay, this is really cool. Second one, I was like, this is so fucking awesome. Third movie, I was like, alright, this is more in line with the first movie. Not as good as the second one. Then, of course, there was the horrendous tragedy. Like, this is probably one of, if not the saddest passings in Hollywood for me, was Cameron Boyce. That was just, oh, that's horrible. Especially, like, my favorite show is, it is still Jesse. And, just him passing away and them finishing the franchise, I was like, okay, it's nice, because at the end of Descendants 3, they do have a little, like, for Cameron there. So then when they announced The Rise of Red, I was like, please, don't do this. Please do not do this. And I will give this to the movie, is the one good scene of Rise of Red is when you have China's character, when you have Uma come in and, she looks at Carlos's picture, and you can just feel like that was China acting. Well, I mean, it wasn't her acting. That was just her being genuine. She didn't need to act in that scene. She was tearing up. And she's like, this is what Carlos would have wanted. This movie just sucks. It's so bad. It literally, like, it feels like you had a 14-year-old little TikTok girl look at this and go, let's do this, but with current music. This is literally what this movie is like. It is horribly written. It is boring as hell. And then by the end, it's like, oh, well, what was the point in this movie then? Because the thing that we were ultimately looking forward to is the thing that we were preventing from happening. So it's like, what the fuck does that even, what's the point? And then on top of that, you introduce, Red, who, I was really interested in, because the Queen of Hearts is a character who I'm surprised we never got in the Descendants franchise. And this, it was just a very basic story of, oh, I just want to be loved by my mom. I don't want to follow in my mom's footsteps. Shut the fuck up. I'm so sick of this shit. And it's so basic and boring and bland, and Even with the story, you think, okay, the one thing that can save a Descendants movie is the songs. This is literally what the fuck were they thinking? The songs had these like modern like beats and like increased basses and all this, and this really cool like club music. I'm like, this is not what it's meant to be. This is not what Descendants songs should be. They should be fun. They should be campy. They should be like kind of pop-ish. What is this shit? What is this modern crap? I really didn't get it. Even the villain songs like "Love Ain't It," "Perfect Revenge," like what rubbish, man, absolute garbage. So even Descendants standards, like Disney Channel standards. I know this wasn't Disney Channel, this was Disney Plus, but still, utter garbage. Really, really terrible. Now, coming in at number 95 is going to be Star Wars: The Last Jedi. This is the only movie in the Star Wars franchise where I can say I wanted it to end. This was so boring, and it felt like it was going on forever. Now, granted, it could be because I didn't watch it in one sitting. I did watch it in probably two, but I honestly can't name anything that happens in this movie other than the fight scene with Kylo Ren and Rey, and then I was about to say Mike, and then Luke dies at the end. That is all I remember. I don't remember anything else about this movie. It was extremely boring, and I remember the writing was terrible. And speaking of terrible writing, let's just move on to number 94, which is going to be its sequel, The Rise of Skywalker. The only reason that this one is above The Last Jedi is because you have Emperor Palpatine in here, which I'm not going to get into it. I know it doesn't make sense that he's back, but I love the character of Emperor Palpatine, so having him in the movie, having like how they shot him, I thought was just brilliant. I love how he looked very zombie-esque, and then especially at the end where he's basically returning to a full power, and you just see his eyes glowing. I love that. That is literally the only reason it's above The Last Jedi, is because there's nothing in The Last Jedi that I can praise. So yeah, Rise of Skywalker, probably the worst written movie in the Star Wars franchise. But then again, I'm gonna say this now: if you're a Star Wars fan, you should probably stop watching this, because yeah, those movies aren't for me, man. At least not all of them. So oh god, I'm gonna get so much flack for this video. Going in at number 93 is going to be Alien vs Predator Requiem. It is one thing to have a bad movie. It is a worse thing to have a bad movie where you can't fucking see anything. And that is exactly what Alien vs Predator Requiem is. Because I watched that first AVP movie, and I was like, damn, it's really taking a long time to get to the monster action. This movie, it started off with the Predator, and I was like, oh damn, we're actually going to be following the Predator in this movie? That is so cool, because I love the Predator. And then the movie just goes, yeah, you know what? You know that like Alien Predator hybrid that we teased at the end of the last one? Yeah, we're going to make the entire movie black so you can't see anything. And I give Godzilla 2014 a lot of crap for being a very dark movie to where I can't even really see what's going on. Oh boy, Alien vs Predator really just said hold my beer, because holy shit, this movie is so dark. I watched it at like 1 in the morning, all the lights off, the blinds closed, all the outside lights off, and I still couldn't see anything. It was terrible. I don't know why they decided to do this, because as someone who watches these Alien and Predator movies not to be scared, but to look at the cool designs of the creatures, not being able to see the creatures really pissed me off. And it doesn't help that the movie itself is rubbish. It's terrible. But the only thing this movie had going for it is gore. It's gory, at least. You can't really see any of the gore, but it's gory. So that's literally the only reason that it's this high on the list. So yeah, Alien vs Predator Requiem. There's a reason why we don't have a third movie yet. Well, Alien vs Predator Requiem was number 92. So number 91 is going to be Under Paris. This is like it's a generic shark movie. You know, I'm not really someone who cares for shark movies anymore because honestly, apart from Jaws and The Meg, nothing has ever impressed me. Obviously, they're not meant to be good movies. You know, Jaws is good. I need to rewatch it actually because I haven't seen it in a long time. But yeah, like The Meg was fun. The Meg 2 was rubbish. And then you have Under Paris, which I'm like, this sounds like an interesting concept of like, you know, all these sharks just taking over Paris. But then, honestly, apart from the ending, it's just kind of a generic shark movie. So I don't really know what else to say about it. There's not really much substance to it. It's not, you know, the characters aren't that interesting. The CGI is all right. And yeah, I'm yawning just talking about it. So we should probably get to number 90, which is going to be The Predator. And I'm going to say this now. There is going to be a movie higher on the list, which I will get to it, where you could very easily argue it is that high because of the people that I know in it. And, you know, when you know the actors in a movie, you generally gravitate more towards them in the movie and you want them to survive. That was not the case in The Predator. So here you have actors which I actually did know. You know, you got the guy from Logan, you got Keegan-Michael Key, some other people who I forgot. I think Thomas Jane is in this movie. You got the Punisher. So you have people who I actually, you know, I quite like. I did not care for their characters at all. Really did not care. But the main reason why I hate this movie is because of the actual predators in it. So there's two predators in this movie. There's the first one, the initial one, which is meant to be like the classic predator, which immediately pissed me off because I hated how it looked, because the predators are meant to be like bulky looking, and yes, they have these massive ass heads, but they are on bulky bodies, so it doesn't look that off. Here, it looks like you took the predator head of a big dude and you stuck it on like Ariana Grande. You know, imagine taking like Dwayne the Rock Johnson's head and putting it on Ariana Grande. It's like that's what it looks like. That first Predator looks so terrible, but they somehow made it worse because at least that one was practical. At least I hope so. Then you have the Assassin Predator, which is fully CGI, and it looks terrible. Like, I don't care how good the CGI is. I mean, it wasn't good, but why would you ever CGI a Predator? That is one of the worst things you could possibly do. And the thing is, actually, hold on. I will show you something. As some of you may know, I went to Dubai, and that is the main reason why, India/Dubai, and that's why this video has been delayed for like 2 weeks. In Dubai, there is a store called Comic Cave where I picked up this guy. This is, I believe it's the NECA Predator. Now, they had this version. They had the Elder Predator from Predator 2, who was about like yay big, so pretty small. And then you had the Assassin Predator from the Predator. Now, this, I believe, is based off of that Assassin Predator. However, I chose this because I wanted a big Predator, but I didn't want that one because that's how much I hated that Predator, because it was just so horrible and distasteful, and the CGI was just terrible. So yeah, it literally influenced my decision on what figure to buy. So yeah, I mean, if that doesn't mean anything, then I don't know what does, honestly. Coming in at number 89 is going to be Alien Cubed, Alien 3, whatever the fuck you want to call it. This is easily the worst of the Alien franchise. It's dull, it's ugly, it's boring, it's slow. The xenomorph looks terrible because it's mostly the puppet which has been like composed into the shot. It's such an awful movie to watch. It honestly, it makes you want to shower. That's how dirty this movie feels. Is you kind of just watch it and you're like, yeah, I need a shower after this. And then, of course, it does the horrible thing of undoing something that happened good that was in the much better previous movie, where Newt and Hicks get killed. Hicks, I don't really care about, but Newt, you killed off the child. You killed off the kid. Something which I would usually respect with horror movies, but this, it was just it was terrible. I don't really know what else to say about Alien 3 that people haven't said already. So that being said, coming in at number 88 is going to be Joker Fluffy Doo-Doo. Joker Folly Adieu. Whatever the fuck you want to call this piece of shit. This, much like Kung Fu Panda 4 and Descendants Rise of Red, is a very, very disrespectful sequel. And, as much crap as I gave those other two for saying fuck you to the fans, this movie is the definition of a fuck you to the fans, because it says, oh, you like that first movie? Huh. You are a dumbass and don't deserve to live. Deal with this, because that first movie you liked is completely pointless. This, I don't know what Todd Phillips was thinking. He wasn't thinking clearly, because what idiot in their right mind makes a movie like this? Because this pissed me off more than a fair amount of people, because from all the reviews that I've seen of this movie, like YouTube reviews, the people have either just liked or were indifferent to that first Joker movie. I am someone who, I love that first Joker. I'm not over exaggerating. You have The Dark Knight, and then, like, for me, my favorite DC movie is still The Dark Knight. Probably, maybe Batman Begins and Joker. Like, Batman Begins and Joker are like neck and neck, because I love, but actually probably Joker. Joker is my second favorite DC movie ever. I don't care that it's not comic accurate. I love that movie. So to have this as its sequel is just insulting. The only reason it is this high on the list is because it is damn well made. The cinematography is fantastic. It is a gorgeous movie to look at. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. It's beautifully directed. Everything about it. It's just that the movie itself is terrible. It's terribly written. The songs make no fucking sense. They come out of nowhere. They feel like you're taking a break from the movie, like when you're watching something on TV and then an advert pops up. That's literally what it is. The singing was also terrible. No offense to Joaquin Phoenix, but Lady Gaga, a literal singer, I was amazed that I wasn't impressed by her singing. So, what more can I say about this disrespectful piece of garbage? So, yeah, that's number 88. Number 87 is going to be X-Men Origins Wolverine. My opinion has kind of softened on this movie. Although, honestly, if I ever rewatch it, which probably won't be for a long time, I don't know, it might actually go back to how it was before. Because this movie is very cheesy, very corny, very, like, you can understand why people love it. Like, you can understand why people love it, and you can also understand why people hate it. Like, I wouldn't say I hate it, I just didn't really like it. The CGI clause is something which I will never forgive. Like, why? That is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen. It's actually shocking. It really, really is that they saw that and was like, huh, that's good enough. It literally looks like styrofoam or something that comes out of his hands. The only thing about this movie I think that I liked was Liev Schreiber's, why can't I say his name? Liev Schreiber's Sabretooth. Now, of course, I have already seen like Scream 2, Scream 3, so Liev Schreiber, I just like him. I just like him. So, even seeing him play a bad guy was pretty interesting. But, yeah, this movie just it's not that memorable. It's not that great. But, I can see why people hate it. That's why it's so low on the list. It's just because in terms of quality, it doesn't really compare to anything else. So, yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine. Coming in at number 87, I think. Maybe. Coming in at number 86 is going to be Alien vs. Predator. And this, look, Again, much like X-Men Origins Wolverine, you either love it or you hate it. I really just did not care for this movie and the thing is, they don't even start fighting until there's like 50 minutes left of the movie. It's terrible, you know. I think it was like 40. I think it was 48 minutes or something like that left of the movie before the alien and predators actually share a scene together. It's terrible. Like it is very much like video game-esque, I can see, but to me, whenever I watch a versus movie now, I only compare it to things like Godzilla versus Kong or Freddy versus Jason. And in those movies, they like spread it across the film. Here, they just wait until the last act of the movie. Then they're like, oh yeah, shit, this movie's called Alien versus Predator. Should probably have them fight. That being said, the only reason it is this high is because the fight scenes that you do get are actually really awesome. I absolutely love the fights between the Xenomorphs and the Predator. And you see this a lot in versus movies where there's always the kind of OP character, which, you know, has a lot of advantages. And then there's the more underdog, you know, there's the underdog, you know, like with, like, just say Freddy versus Jason. Freddy is, of course, way more powerful than Jason. Jason is the underdog, which the humans end up supporting. Captain America Civil War. Iron Man has all this technology, his team is all powerful. Team Cap, all Cap has is like increased speed, strength, you know, and then his team is kind of like the underdogs, you know. Godzilla versus Kong. Godzilla has this powerful atomic breath and all this teeth and all this shit. Kong, underdog, which the humans support. So you get this a lot in versus movies, you know, even Batman versus Superman, you know, Superman, Batman. And this movie just decided, yeah, you know, we're just going to wait till the end, and gave us some really cool fights. I loved that the Predator kind of teamed up with the main girl. I thought that was really smart, and especially the way that he cut its head off and let her use it as a shield. I thought that was genius, and of course inspired the alien Romulus popcorn bucket. But the main reason why I love this movie is just because of not the movie. The one thing that what I loved about this movie, apart from the action, was the ending where they take the Predator onto the ship. You know, the main Predator, I forgot his name, but the Predators, of course, are very honorable. They have this sort of code of honor, this respect. So the Elder actually gives the main girl one of the spears, and it's fantastic. You know, that whole thing, everything revolving the Predators, I just find so fascinating. I love it. So yeah, that is Alien versus Predator. Coming in at number 85 is going to be Prometheus, the one movie of the Alien franchise that does not have the word alien in it. This has got to be one of the most confusing movies I've ever seen, because it's like, why would this be part of the Alien franchise? Ridley Scott had these like huge grand ideas. Where do we come from? Oh, who created us? You know, let's meet our gods. But it's part of the Alien franchise, a franchise where you have the alien burst out of someone's chest and has acid blood and just kills the people on the ship. Why would this, a movie dealing with where humans come from and all this ideology, be tied to that? It doesn't really make sense. The only reason that this movie is above things like Alien vs. Predator is just because of one character. That being Michael Fassbender. I can't even say his name. Michael Fassbender's David. Michael Fassbender is an actor who I have an immense amount of respect for, and the character of David was just fascinating. You know, of course it gets, you know, more interesting in Covenant, but even in Prometheus, I really liked everything his character was doing. I followed it really well, but Prometheus is just a movie that does not belong in the Alien franchise. And the thing is, I saw a few months ago, actually, that my dad did have Prometheus downloaded. And I know exactly that he downloaded that movie, not knowing that it's part of the Alien franchise, because he didn't really seem like someone who'd watch the Alien movies. And, well, I mean, he did. I just doubt that he actually watched them. But Prometheus, that being the only Alien movie he has downloaded, yeah, he didn't know it was part of it. So yeah, Prometheus is just, it's a movie that really it shouldn't really be part of the Alien franchise. I don't know why they did this. Ridley Scott must just like just get out of here, honestly. But yeah, confusing as hell and has some of the dumbest characters known to fiction. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Going in at number 84 is going to be Smile 2. Now, I'm someone who really enjoyed the first Smile. I thought that was a great concept. However, for a sequel, I was like, okay, what are we going to do different enough that is going to warrant a sequel? Because this is something which the concept is nice, but I don't know how we're going to make a sequel without it feeling repetitive. And unfortunately, that is where Smile 2 does fail. Is it does feel very derivative of things from the first movie. There are some good scenes. You know, Naomi Scott in this movie is absolutely exceptional. She is amazing. I think she portrays what her character is meant to be perfectly. But there were just things in this movie that I didn't really care for. But the main reason that it is so low on the list is because everyone with half a brain cell predicted the ending. Like, as soon as, like, before the trailer, before anything came out, and, the leak said, oh, it's going to be about a pop star, we all were like, okay, it's going to end with, her offing herself in front of everybody. And I know I reacted to a trailer of Smile 2. I might have said that. I don't know. It's a pop star. Obviously, she's a singer. So now, imagine, what my idea was that she is going to be on stage, and, eventually by the end of the movie, she's going to on stage. But, it's so disappointing. And the thing is that obviously you have this group of people, as you do with every horror movie that comes out nowadays, where they go, oh my god, it's the scariest horror movie of the year, it's the best horror movie of the year, oh my god, it's amazing, it's so fantastic. These people don't watch horror movies. Well, at least they didn't watch the first movie. Because I genuinely don't understand how you can watch that first movie and then watch the second one and be like, oh, yes, that was a great sequel. That warranted its existence, even though we didn't learn anything about this fucking curse and we just wasted 2 hours of our time because 1.5 hours of it wasn't real anyway. So, yeah, I don't know, this movie was just disappointing, really. It wasn't even that scary, which kind of sucks. There were maybe like 1 or 2 jump scares which were really good, but not for me. Sorry. Remember when I said that this video is gonna get a lot of flack for my opinions? This is one of the many cases which this is going to happen. Number 83 is going to be the Alien, the original Alien. Oh my god, I'm so scared of the internet. Look. If I didn't know anything about this movie, this could probably be a top 20 or 30. But I knew everything about this movie. That, of course, you have Ripley, you have the chest buster, the acid for blood, and of course what the xenomorph looks like. So there wasn't really anything that I didn't know about the movie, apart from Ash. I didn't expect that whole Ash twist. But yeah, apart from Ash and Ripley, I can't name you a single character in this movie. But yeah, it's definitely a victim of me knowing what happens in the movie. But also on top of that, this could have just been my copy. This was the most painful movie to watch because of the flickering lights. I watch almost everything with the lights off in the dark because I like having all the lights off. And this, I actually had to put the light on. In the final act, when Ripley is walking around the ship to try and get to the escape pod or whatever it was, that was the most painful thing I think I've ever seen in my life. The flickering of the lights was so bad. I'm not epileptic, but I had to put the light on just because of how bad it got. So, yeah, that definitely hurt my experience even more. So, yeah, that definitely sucks. And this is just even more proof of how much shit I'm getting into. Number 82, above the original Alien, I'm going to put Piranha from 2010. Look, it's exactly what I expected when I clicked on a Piranha movie. It's stupid, it's dumb, it's gory, but it was funny as hell and just a lot of fun just a lot of fun to have. And yeah, I don't really regret putting it above Alien because I appreciate Alien as a movie. I appreciate what it did, of course. I mean, it was 1979. It was 1979. This movie is a terrible movie, but at least I enjoyed it. It was so bad that it's good. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just suck it up and deal with it. Honestly, I'm tired of explaining myself. Coming in at number one. Oh my god! Number 81 is going to be Alien Resurrection. And much like Piranha, this is a so bad it's good movie. But I actually had a lot of fun with this one in many aspects. First of all, the cast is fantastic. You got Chucky, you got Optimus Primal, you got Joyce, you got friggin' Tuco, you got so many people here. But it's not just that, it's just you got to see the Xenomorph so much more. And as I said with Alien vs. Predator Requiem, I watch these movies to look at the creatures, to look at the designs. I don't really watch these movies to be scared. So I quite enjoyed this one. It was very goofy, and the writing was, very. Of course, it was, the same writer, The Avengers. So of course, kind of responsible for the Marvel humor. But yeah, it was interesting to say the least. And then of course you get towards the end when you have the alien, the Xenomorph and human hybrid, which interesting concept, definitely. I think the execution was interesting because they kind of played it off where it looks like a monstrosity, but they treated it like a sympathetic creature. So yeah, I don't know. It was really strange, to be honest with you. So yeah, I mean, Alien Resurrection, I know it's the most hated movie of the Alien franchise, which is kind of shocking considering that Alien 3 exists. But yeah, I think that this movie was different enough and didn't really feel like a repeat of what we saw before, which, fantastic. You didn't do the same thing 4 times in a row. Well done, guys. And this is where I start getting more flack from Star Wars fans, because number 80 is going to be the original Star Wars. Yes, Star Wars A New Hope. Now, I probably could have done a better job at defending myself back when I first watched the movies. As of right now, my memory is kind of foggy, but this movie I just remember being kind of like it exists, The practical effects were gorgeous. I loved looking at the prosthetics and all that for all the different creatures and things. But yeah, I can't really say I felt much watching this movie, apart from looking at a young Harrison Ford and going, holy shit, he looks like Will Ferrell. Apart from that, didn't really get much out of it, if I'm going to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know. I know that Star Wars fans are very, very passionate, very, very toxic, mostly. I'm not going to say everyone, but yeah, they're very passionate about the thing. So, of course, Star Wars, I say that. I have like 4 or 5 Funko Pops of Star Wars, but, as far as the actual movies go, I'm not the biggest fan of them. So, yeah, forgive me. Coming in at number 79 is going to be Fantastic Four from 2005. This is a very cheesy, campy comic book movie, but oh my god, was it fun to watch. I don't know what it was about it. There were certain scenes, mainly, if I'm going to be honest, most of the time I was having fun was because of Johnny Storm. So it was just really cool to watch. But this movie, it would be lower, but it has what is, in my opinion, one of the saddest scenes in any comic book movie, and I think that you know what it is if you've seen this movie. So throughout the film, earlier in the film, after they all get their respective powers, Ben still looks like the Thing, he's made of rocks, and his wife just runs away from him. And then later in the movie, on the bridge, after he helps save a bunch of people, she goes and looks at him and leaves her wedding ring on the bridge and then runs away. And that's not even the saddest part. The saddest part is him not being able to pick up the ring. Bro, Oh my god, that is the saddest shit of any movie so far that I've listed. That is heartbreaking. He's just, the ring is right there and he can't pick it up. It's really really terrible, and just goes to show that even these like goofy comic book movies can have some really emotional scenes. And I thought that was genius. The way that they did it, it was fantastic. It really really was. But of course, another thing in this movie, I have not seen the sequel, so I don't really know what else happens with this character. But in this movie, you do get the first, I believe, theatrical version of Doctor Doom, and yeah, his design was pretty cool. It was pretty close to Doctor Doom, at least from what I remember. But yeah, he was just kind of generic bad guy. So not really the Doctor Doom that I wanted, not really the Doctor Doom that I know, but I mean, I'm not really not that knowledgeable on Doctor Doom as compared to other people, but yeah, I don't know. This movie could have been better. Could have been better. Coming in at number 78 is going to be what is considered the greatest sequel of all time, Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. This movie, I will definitely say, was better than the first Star Wars. I was a lot more engaged in it. But again, it's just the concept. I don't really. I watched this franchise just to say that I watched it, because I know that people obsess over these movies, and I can't really blame them. It is definitely something that I can see people getting obsessed with. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. This movie, you do get more Darth Vader, which I'm always thankful for. I love Darth Vader. That is one thing about these movies that I will agree with everyone on, is that Darth Vader is just a fantastic villain. I do think that people overdo it though, saying that he's like the greatest movie villain of all time. Like, really? Really? You're like to disregard the prequels. So meaning that you look at just these three movies and say that Darth Vader is the best movie villain ever. Seriously? It is a fairly generic story that he goes through, but I'll get more to that when I get to the last Jedi. God, Return of the Jedi. But yeah, now The Empire Strikes Back was pretty solid, especially compared to the first movie. I liked the environments that we went to, and then of course you have the "I am your father." Really good scene, fantastic setup, and yeah, this was definitely the middle chapter of a trilogy. But yeah, I was fairly surprised by it, let's just say. Coming in at number 77 is going to be Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Now, the main reason why this movie is higher than like Empire Strikes Back is because I expected this to be utter garbage. Because of course I know the sequel trilogy is what got like all the hate and stuff. So when I watched The Force Awakens, I was like, this is actually pretty decent. There are obviously a couple things that I really did not like about it. Like, number one, I think his name is John Boyega. I think Finn, that's the character's name. Finn just being able to wield the lightsaber and duel with Kylo Ren, I thought was really stupid, especially considering how Yoda had to teach Luke how to use the lightsaber, and then you got Kylo Ren, who is just a sickening antagonist. How is this the villain of an entire trilogy, basically? Or really, it's just these first two movies. This is not a villain. This is just a whiny child. It's so annoying. And then of course they kill off Han Solo, which, like, what the fuck? This like, oh, I don't know. But this movie was actually, I fairly enjoyed it, to be honest. I thought, again, expected it to be absolute rubbish, but no, this was actually pretty solid, especially considering the movies that followed it. Coming in number 76 is going to be Bad Boys. And this is a movie that my friend forced me to watch, and the same friend forced me to watch John Wick. And John Wick is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I was like, okay, I'm expecting greatness from Bad Boys. This just isn't my type of movie. These buddy cop comedy movies, it's not my thing. I'll laugh just for the sake of laughing, but there's not really much in these things that I find funny. And I don't know what it is, but also it doesn't help that you have the sickening bitch Amanda from Jurassic Park 3 screaming for Ben, Eric, dick in this movie. No hate to the actress, of course, but that just really that didn't help. And I can't really name anything else from this movie other than that for most of the movie, Mike pretends to be the other guy, and the other guy pretends to be Mike. I will remember his name. Actually, no, I can't even remember Martin Lawrence's character's name. Shit. But you know what I mean. It's just these movies aren't for me. I watched the first one. I didn't bother watching the sequels. So, maybe one day when I'm old and find everything in the world funny, maybe then I'll watch it. But yeah, not for me. Editing Chavez here. I have fucked up. I meant to put. I missed literally 3 movies. I missed 3 freaking movies in this list. I can't believe it. I will just speed through this, but it was number 75. Number 75 was meant to be Aliens. I don't know how I missed this. I'm sorry. The letterbox thing is just so distracting. But Aliens, I thought was it was a big improvement over the original Alien. Of course, this is by James Cameron, so you can kind of see where Avatar got the inspiration from. He was like, okay, we'll make Aliens, and then he's like, let me make Avatar, but how I made Aliens. So very, very clear inspiration. I thought that the Queen Xenomorph was fantastic. I love that you got to see the Xenomorphs more, because as I said, I go to watch these movies for the designs of the creatures and things like that. Newt, I normally hate it when they throw in a child character, because they always do the same thing of, the kid won't talk initially, and then eventually they'll say something. But here, Newt was actually a really, I wouldn't say interesting character, but she was a good character. She wasn't annoying. So, yeah, Aliens was pretty solid. Then, number 74 is going to be Alien Covenant. A movie which really is just overstuffed, because it didn't know it was trying to be a sequel to Prometheus, but also a sequel to the Alien, so a prequel to the Alien franchise. So of course you have the two things colliding, and it didn't really work very well. I don't like that they made the Xenomorph a man-made creation. I think it would have been way cooler if it just kept evolving and evolving and evolving, because it is the perfect organism. That's what it's referred to as, is the perfect organism. But it was man-made, it was engineered. So what the fuck's the point? So yeah, Covenant, it also suffers from the same thing as Prometheus, having the dumbest fucking characters in fiction. Along with The Strangers Chapter 1, which I failed to mention. And then number 73 was meant to be Predator 2. This I thought was a really interesting concept of having the Predator in the city, and I quite liked this whole idea of it being cop based, because they keep thinking, oh my god, this guy is so sadistic and sick that he hangs the bodies and skins them and all this. I thought it was really good, but I can understand the movie being kind of boring. I don't really want to re-watch this movie, but it was actually decent. Not as good as Predators or The Predator. I mean, not The Predator. Predator. The original Predator. Yeah, it's not as good as those, but yeah, still pretty solid. So, back to you, Karan Chavez, where you will proceed to fuck up the numbering, but I will put the correct numbers on screen. So don't worry, guys. Coming in at number 72 is going to be Star Wars Return of the Jedi. And this is, of course, the final movie in the original trilogy of Star Wars. And I did say in the Empire Strikes Back segment that I said that Darth Vader has a very generic, basic arc. Yeah, I obviously realized that this was 1977 and they hadn't really been anything like that at the time. So I do apologize, but Return of the Jedi is definitely my favorite of the 3, just because, first of all, it's the one that I remember the most, but mainly because you have the Emperor. And I've said it in the Rise of Skywalker part that I really love Emperor Palpatine. I don't know what it is about him. He's just so cool, But one thing about this movie is that Yoda dies in the beginning. Yoda, for being such an iconic character, of course he's very prominent in the prequel trilogy, but for being such a prominent character, a well-known character, in the original trilogy, he only lasts for basically half of the second movie, and then one scene in the third movie, and then he's dead. Like, it's quite crazy. But yeah, no, I quite like the conclusion here, especially with Darth Vader like asking Luke to take his mask off and everything. I quite like that. And but I do find it hard to believe that at the end they just have this funeral for Vader and everyone comes and joins, and it's like, this dude still killed a lot of people. Like, he killed a lot of people. I don't think just because you saw his redemption means that everyone's gonna forgive him. So yeah, I also don't even remember if this was the movie where they reveal. I think this was the movie where they revealed that Leia and Luke were siblings, which, oh my god, why? So yeah, Return of the Jedi, definitely my favorite of the OG trilogy, and I know I'm still gonna get people complaining because it is this low on the list. Coming in at number 75 is going to be X-Men The Last Stand. And this movie it's an interesting one because it's not as horrendous and like unbearable as people like to make it out to be, but that still doesn't mean that it's a great movie. If this movie was on the level of the first two, you would have one of the best comic book trilogies ever, with X-Men X2 and X-Men The Last Stand. But this movie just had way too much going on. It had the Spider-Man 3 problem of just having way too many characters to focus on, because you had the Jean Grey storyline, which really should be the entire movie, but then you throw in the Mutant Cure storyline, and it becomes too much. It's too much for that one movie. And I don't know, I just thought it was very, very messy. And I'm glad that X-Men Days of Future Past kind of, I wouldn't say retcon, but just kind of fixed all the issues that X-Men The Last Stand made. So yeah, this movie was a lot lower on the list, but after watching Dark Phoenix, it kind of like shot up like 10 places, because I was like, damn, this movie is so much better, because you have the death of Charles Xavier here, which is actually a great scene. What does Dark Phoenix have? Nothing. Going in at number 74 is going to be The Wolverine. This is Wolverine's second solo movie, and this one, for the most part, was actually decent. I quite liked the CGI here. It wasn't horrendous CGI like how it was before. The claws actually looked good. The characters I also thought were much better. Yukio I thought was good. And just the way that Wolverine acts in this movie I thought was great. He wasn't like cheesy like he was in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He wasn't overly serious like he is in like Logan or something like that. It was like a nice balance. So yeah, this movie is still not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. That third act is just that was very X-Men Origins-y. So yeah, it's an alright movie. Coming in at number 73 is going to be X-Men Apocalypse. And I'm just saying this now. I know that at this point, it just kind of seems like, damn, there's only like 3 franchises here. There's the Alien franchise, there's the the Star Wars franchise, and the X-Men franchise. Trust me, there is more, okay? It's just that in this bottom barrel we're dealing with here. Yeah, so it is X-Men Apocalypse. And this movie, I think, definitely gets way too much hate for what it actually is. It's not, again, much like X-Men The Last Stand, it's not fantastic, it's definitely disappointing, but I actually quite liked certain aspects of this movie. And the main reason why it's higher than like X-Men The Last Stand is because of the scene with Magneto and his family. I really hated that because I hated it in a good way, because obviously, you were really upset. Magneto is the one constant in these X-Men movies, where it's like, even if they're crap, even if they're bad like Apocalypse, you still connect with Magneto, you understand him, because this man just wanted to live a normal life. You have Magneto living a normal civilian life with normal humans, and you completely fuck that up by killing his family. Here, it is completely warranted as to why Magneto goes insane. Well, I wouldn't say goes insane, but joins the bad team. Apocalypse in this movie, I think, was pretty emotionless, pretty boring. And Oscar Isaac is a good actor. And this is the one time where I actually think CGI would have been better. Because, of course, I love my practical effects. But I think that in this case, it definitely would have benefited them to make Apocalypse a CGI character, as opposed to just as a normal human-sized person. Coming in at number 72 is going to be Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. This is an underrated one. I will be honest, I actually think that this one is fairly underrated because the story between Padme and Anakin, I think, is, yes, very cheesy, very corny, especially in terms of the writing. You have the "I don't like sand." It is pretty goofy, and I don't know why, but it has like a certain charm to it. I don't know what it is, but it's mainly that third act where it's like, holy fuck, this is so cool, because you have probably, in my opinion, okay, the coolest moment in the franchise to me is when Count Dooku beats both Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then Yoda, oh my god, Yoda trots in, and then he just pulls his robe to the side and he gets the lightsaber out. Oh my god, I don't think I can express the goosebumps I had when that happened. That was so cool. It was awesome. Just seeing Yoda whoop out the lightsaber and actually have a decent fight with Count Dooku, I thought was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, the action in the third act is really what elevates this movie. But yeah, I can understand why people don't like this one, but I was a fan of it. So yeah, then coming in at number 71 is going to be Toy Story 4. I've never been obsessed over the Toy Story movies. I've enjoyed them. The first one is definitely I say definitely. The first one is probably my favorite. But yeah, I've never been like overly obsessed with this franchise. It's like Madagascar. I like it. I'll happily watch it. But it's not something like Kung Fu Panda where I'm like, this is one of the best animated franchise ever. But Toy Story 4 was just like, what are we doing here? Like, it was a very movie. It didn't really feel like much was going on. And I don't know. It was just, it just existed. The only reason that it is so high is because this, I'll be honest with you, this movie, while not being very good, oh, by the way, before I actually get to that, Keanu Reeves is in this movie. Keanu fucking Reeves, one of the most badass, most awesome people in the world, plays Duke Kaboom in this movie. What the fuck? And the thing is, that is such a Keanu thing to do. I actually respect it. But yeah, again, never had a strong attachment to this franchise, but this movie has the one scene of anything I watched this year which made me absolutely bawl my eyes out, and that was the ending when Woody is leaving Buzz and the toys. And no, I'm not getting choked up talking about it. Woody's leaving all of them to go with Bo Peep. I actually had to pause the movie because I needed a good 5 or 10 minutes just to calm down, to cry, to wash my I sound like I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I don't know why that scene got to me so badly, but it was heartbreaking. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't stop crying. I don't know why, but yeah, that really got me. So yeah, even though the movie itself is not exactly fantastic, there were certain things that were like, pretty predictable. The ending just really kind of elevated it for me. So yeah, that's Toy Story 4. And number 70, this one breaks my heart to do it, but it is Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. As I like to call it, Kong: The New Empire. This was the most frustrating movie I watched this year, especially in the cinemas, because I love Godzilla. I really love Godzilla, and the MonsterVerse really did that. So then you get to this movie, especially after Godzilla vs. Kong, which there I didn't really mind Godzilla being sidelined because, first of all, when I was watching the movie for the first time, I didn't really mind it. But even when I rewatch it, I'm like, okay, obviously his storyline is meant to be a secret, it's meant to be hidden because Mechagodzilla is the surprise. So it makes sense that Kong has more screen time. And I actually quite liked that Kong had more screen time in Godzilla vs. Kong. But then you get to what is meant to be a team-up movie of both Godzilla and Kong. The movie just you can tell that this was meant to be a solo Kong movie, because for ages it was rumored that the next Monsterverse movie was going to be a Son of Kong film. This is very clearly a Kong movie that has Godzilla shoved into it, because the only way I can describe this movie is we are with Kong and the humans for about 20 minutes, then we cut to Godzilla for 5 seconds killing something, and then we cut to Kong and the humans for another 20 minutes. That is literally what happens. It is so frustrating and it's so sickening, because this is another movie where they clearly just falsely advertised it, and it really, really angers me, because I hate movies that do this, where they know what people are coming for, but they put all the marketing around that one part of the movie, but then for the rest of the movie they're like, nah, we'll just keep that away from the trailers, forget the fact, no, team up movie, no, fuck that, this is a Kong movie. It's so sickening. It is so annoying, because Godzilla has less screen time in this movie than he does in the entire, through any of the movies previous to this, and that's terrible. It really, really is. The movie itself as well, apart from the fact that they just blatantly disrespected Godzilla. In this movie he's basically just Kong's bitch. He's just his dog. He just kind of roams around, destroys shit, because apparently that's all Godzilla is. He's not a character. He just kills stuff, blows shit up, and then when Kong needs him, he'll call him, like a dog. The movie itself, again, Scar King, a villain who was supposed to be so powerful and scary and strong that they needed to both team up for, which, by the way, a team-up movie, the most teaming up they do is run together. That's all they fucking do. And then you bring in Shimo, which really, Shimo was a very cheap tactic, what they did here. I really didn't like this. Scar King was obviously meant to be Kong's villain, but then they had to integrate Godzilla into the story somehow. So they put in Shimo, just so that they can have Godzilla do something in the final battle, so that they can focus on Kong and Scar King. It is really, really terrible. I hate that they did that.
Editing Chavez here. I would also just like to add on to this and say that they really missed an opportunity here, because Godzilla is the one who imprisoned Scar King in that area of the Hollow Earth. He beat him and his army, and they did absolutely nothing with that. Just because Scar King is an ape and he's imprisoned the other apes doesn't mean that he is only a villain for Kong. Godzilla beat him ages ago, and all you get of that history, apart from the giant exposition scene, is when Godzilla and Kong arrive in the Hollow Earth, Scar King looks up in terror when he hears Godzilla's roar. Apart from that, they do absolutely nothing with the history between Scar King and Godzilla.
But yeah, the action in this movie, like, for a general audience member, they'll be like, oh yeah, Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire, the action was so cool, I was on the edge of my seat. No. The action was nothing compared to what we had in Godzilla vs. Kong. The CGI as well is questionable at times, which I can kind of forgive it, because of course there is a lot of CGI in this movie when compared to the previous ones, but it's just funny how most of the shots of strange CGI are Godzilla. It's strange. Kong looks perfectly fine. Kong looks great, the environment, the Hollow Earth looks great. It's only Godzilla who looks like crap a lot of the time. So, yeah, another movie that falsely advertised pissed me off. So, yeah, that's the only reason that it is so low. It's about time I stopped talking about this movie now. And speaking of pissing people off, number 69 is going to be The Godfather. Look, I know this is considered one of the best movies of all time. However, I watched this and I just don't get it. I don't know why people love this movie so much that think it's one of the best of all time. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. I just don't understand why people treat it like it's God's gift to man. I don't understand. I do feel like the beginning part of the movie is very much just kind of like, okay, what's going on here, you know, kind of setting things up. But I don't know. I like, there's certain things that, I mean, I could just be dumb. I could be dumb. I should probably watch a video explaining The Godfather. But like, things that didn't make sense to me is like Don Corleone getting shot and then going to hospital and then be like, oh, don't worry guys, he survived. And then like an hour later he dies from like a heart attack or something. And it's like, well, what was the point? Yeah, I don't know, man. This movie, it's a good movie. It's kind of like Squid Game is season 1 in a way, where it's great if you're just watching it, but you know, if you ignore all the insane hype and how people praise it, if you ignore that, you will enjoy this. But that's what happened with The Godfather with me. Is I went in expecting one of the best movies of all time, and I ended up with something that just kind of went, yeah, there were cool moments, there were some really, really good moments, but yeah. I don't understand this one. Number 68 is going to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is just a very random movie. And to be honest with you, I probably should have put The Godfather above this, because The Godfather, at least I understood what was happening. This movie is just random. There is no story here. It is just going from this. I can't even say it's going from point A to B, because it's going from like point Z to Q to R to A to B to J. It's just so confusing and weird and strange. But there's just something about it, mainly because of Brad Pitt. I haven't really watched anything with Brad Pitt, but I don't know what it was. He had this charm in this movie. And I watched this movie from Margot Robbie, and she was barely in it. I was heartbroken. But Leo and freaking Brad Pitt together, I thought, was a fantastic duo and really just carried this movie. And that's the only reason that it is so high, is because of those two. The rest of the movie is like, can't really tell you anything that happened. So yeah, let's just move on to number 67. Number 67, we have Predators. And when I said for The Predator, there's certain movies that I only like, or that, you know, people will like because of the cast, Predators is an example. And you know, I actually thought that this movie was really solid, not just because of the cast, because if I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really have a strong attachment to any of them, because like Topher Grace, he played a shitty version of Venom. The main guy I just know as the guy from King Kong. You have Tortuga from Breaking Bad, and you have Mashallah Ali, who I didn't even know that was him when I first watched this movie. So yeah, you know, it's like the cast wasn't really what made me love this movie. It was the movie itself. I thought that this was a really, really solid Predator sequel, and I loved it. I actually had a lot of fun with it, because there were just certain things about it that didn't feel like it was copying the first movie, at least in the first half of the movie. You know, it didn't really feel like it was copying the first Predator. It was just kind of the characters figuring out where they were, but also the audience. I thought that was brilliant. But then you get to mainly the third act, where there is blatant, like, just references and callbacks to the original Predator, which, it was getting painful. It really, really was. Like, I'm here, do it, kill me. And I don't know if it was get to the chopper or get to the spaceship or whatever the fuck the guy said. But yeah, there were just way too many callbacks to that original Predator, and it was getting tiresome. But one thing I love here is the kind of the tiers of the Predators. You know, the Predator, which is like above the classic one. I think the design is glorious. I love the much wider jaw. I think it's brilliant. I really, really love it. So yeah, it's so much better than that stupid CGI assassin Predator. But yeah, Predators, I honestly genuinely consider putting above the original Predator just because of how much fun this movie was. But of course, I gotta pay my respects to the original. And you know, coming up next, number 66 is the original Predator. This movie is so fucking good. It's solid, man. I really did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did because, of course, the original Alien, another same franchise. I heard people praise it, and of course, I knew almost everything about the movie, so I didn't really enjoy it as much. The original Predator, I didn't actually know that much about. So I watched this. All I knew is that Arnie was in this movie, and it was just a lot of fun. This movie was just a lot of fun. You know, it was a more action movie than a horror movie. I really love the Predator design. I think it is probably one of, if not my favorite design of any monster in a movie. I love the reveal scene of when it like takes the mask off, and then of course it just roars. It's beautiful, and you have of course some of the most iconic lines in movie history, like "You are one ugly motherfucker," and the "Get to the chopper, I'm here, do it, kill me," you know, things like that. It's so cool. This is like Testosterone the movie. You know, you think of like generic man action movie, this is what comes to mind, except it's not generic, it's actually really good. So yeah, the first Predator is just so iconic. It's brilliant, and yeah, really, really good. Coming in at number 61 is going to be Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, I am slightly cheating here because I actually did watch this movie before. I watched it maybe about, oh god, what was it, like 15 years ago? Maybe like 12 roundabout. And I remember, the only thing about this movie I remembered was the ending fight with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. And then the Qui-Gon died. That is all I remembered about this movie, so I decided to include it on the list. Because the rest of the movie, I had absolutely no clue. I did not remember anything, and honestly, I quite enjoyed this one. I know people crap on The Phantom Menace just because the final battle is the thing that people are most excited for, but yeah, I actually quite enjoyed this movie. I thought the only thing about it, which probably could have bumped it up, or I don't know, maybe like 10 places, is Darth Maul. I think they definitely could have done a better job with Darth Maul because he's barely in the movie. He's like a cameo every like half an hour, and then the final battle is where he really gets to shine. I know that it was, I think it was Clone Wars or whatever it was, some sort of animated spin-off show. Darth Maul actually survives, and he becomes like a really interesting character. But I'm just going as far as the movie goes. They could have done a better job with Darth Maul, is all I'm saying. Coming in number 60 is going to be Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. Yes, I'm putting Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 above things like Alien, The Godfather, and whatever I just said. Star Wars. This was a gigantic step up in quality. You know, like compared to that original movie, which last year, 2023, of people ranking all the movies that they saw, or all the movies of the year, there were two constants. Most of the time, Across the Spider-Verse was at the top, rightfully so, because that movie was awesome. And the second thing was Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey being right at the bottom. That was the bottom of everyone's list because the movie was utter garbage. But this one was so much more fun to watch. They still, I think, are taking it a little bit too seriously, but oh my god, the practical effects on the creatures, Pooh, Piglet, Owl, Tigger, they all looked so good. They really, really did. I think that basing each of their personalities off of certain horror icons, I thought was an interesting choice. But honestly, I didn't really mind it. I thought, the creatures themselves were really good. The only thing is the CGI blood is still annoying me. I never have and never will like CGI blood. It just does not look. It ruins the immersion. But I'll be willing to forgive it because, of course, the budget and everything like that. So yeah, this movie was way cooler than the last one, and I genuinely did not think that they were gonna, improve it so much. And then that leads us to number 59, which is a little movie called Mirrors. Now, this I only watched because I kept hearing Cody Leach talk about this when he talking about like mirror jump scares or mirror scares, because this movie has probably the best mirror scare of any movie. Is the not jump scare is when the main guy, I forgot his name, but basically his sister, I believe, looks in the mirror, and then of course she walks over to the bathtub, but her reflection is still watching her, and she rips her entire jaw open, and it is brutal, but it is so cool. It is so awesome. But just as well, like the by the way, the poster of this movie, I'm gonna put it up, is what the fuck even is that? That is such false advertising, because you look at the poster and you're like, oh my god, this movie looks so terrifying. Ugh. But no, because the people in the mirrors are literally just look like normal people. They don't look like whatever the fuck that is. So yeah, I thought this was really cool. But also something unexpected is I was just talking about Descendants Rise of Red earlier, and Cameron Boyce is in this movie. He's so young, he's so small, but yeah, it's crazy that he ended up being kind of like a bad kid, like a possessed kid or whatever. It was interesting. And of course, it is another horror movie that ends on a not so happy note, where the main character got stuck in the mirror dimension. So not the Marvel one, but yeah, that was really cool. Mirrors was definitely a movie that surprised me. I'll tell you that. Coming in at number 58 is going to be X. Now, this was a movie that I heard everybody talk about when it came out back in 2022. I knew absolutely nothing about it, other than, of course, Jenna Ortega screaming. That's all I knew. I only saw that shot of her screaming, and of course I heard the scream. I knew nothing else about the movie. This was interesting. I definitely think that people overdid it. I think they did overhype it, because they say, oh my god, this was like the best horror movie in so many years. Oh my god, it's amazing. Just like how I was saying about Smile 2. But, I mean, this was significantly better than Smile 2, in my opinion. But I think that this movie, it tackles an interesting concept of, like the whole aging thing, because of course Pearl, she doesn't want to accept the fact that she's old, but also it makes you a lot more terrified of old people, because old people will be either really sweet and kind or creepy as hell. This movie, oh god, it's horrible, man. You really get uncomfortable when Pearl is there, even Howard to an extent, but really it's Pearl. It's really creepy, and I think that Mia Goth in this movie is of course doing Jim Carrey in Sonic 3. She's playing two roles, and honestly, if someone doesn't tell you, I don't think you can guess that Pearl is Mia Goth. She, like, the makeup and everything, she's gone. She vanishes. So yeah, this movie I thought it was pretty good. It's not as amazing as I was expecting, obviously because of the overhype. But yeah, it was definitely a really interesting film. They managed to like really put us in that time. I think they did a great job with that. I believe it was in the 70s or the 80s. I actually forgot when it was. I think it was the 70s. Yeah. I thought that they did a really good job of putting us back in that time, even though I was not alive back then. So yeah. That is going to be X. And then, of course, following that up with the next one, number 57, is going to be Maxine. Maxine it's an interesting one, because I liked this watch more than X, Just because with X, I was like, what is going on here? But with Maxine, I don't know what it was, but I enjoyed it more. I think it was just because of Kevin Bacon. I have a feeling maybe because of Kevin Bacon, but I really don't know what it was. I just had more fun watching Maxine, except for the ending. You know, this movie is like Scream 6. Like the most of the movie I enjoyed, but as soon as you get to the killer reveal, it's like, okay, what are we doing here? What is this shit? Yeah, the killer reveal was just absolutely terrible. I didn't predict it, and even I was disappointed. So it's just, I don't know, man. Mia Goth in this movie is, of course, still great. So really, that's one thing that this movie definitely will get praise for. Even if you don't like the movie, Mia Goth is still a great actress. And they give her her one take, of course, in the beginning of the movie, whereas, you know, in Pearl, it was towards the end. And speaking of which, number 56 is going to be Pearl. Pearl is undoubtedly, in my opinion, the best of the trilogy. I know that people really like X, but to me, I loved this movie. This was so much better. And Mia Goth, holy shit. I know that people are going on like Jenna Ortega, oh my gosh, she's the modern Scream Queen. No. I refuse. I love Jenna Ortega. I loved her for years, but I refuse to hear that she is a better Scream Queen than Mia Goth. Mia Goth's acting is phenomenal, especially in this movie. She is so good. I mean, she has a 6-minute monologue. A 6-minute monologue! That is insane! And the emotion that she expresses, it is just fantastic. I love what they did here. I really did. And you know, as I said, I just enjoyed this so much more than X. And Maxine, actually, like the gap between Maxine and Pearl is a pretty big gap. You know, like with X and Maxine, it's like this, but no, it's a big difference between Pearl and Maxine. I had so much fun with this. So yeah, Pearl definitely my favorite of the trilogy. And that being said, number 55 is going to be Jack Reacher. I honestly don't know what inspired me to watch this movie. It was kind of just, it was there. You know, it's not the most memorable movie in the world. It's not Tom Cruise at his best. You know, I'll just say that. It's not Tom Cruise at his best, but I don't know. This movie was alright. You know, of course I remember the ending, but apart from that, it was kind of just, you know, find the killer movie. I didn't really mind it. It wasn't that amazing, but like watching it, I had more fun than things like X and Pearl. So that's the only reason why it's above that. But as far as what the better movie is, I would probably still say Pearl. So yeah, I just enjoyed Jack Reacher more. Coming in at number 54 is going to be Why Him? Now, this is a movie that is very, it's not even close to what I would usually watch, you know, like these comedies and stuff. But I saw Bryan Cranston and James Franco on the poster, and I'm like, yes, this movie is gonna be great. And honestly, apart from, after Terrifier 3, this is the first Christmas movie I've ever seen in my life. And I got to see Bryan Cranston bite James Franco's balls, or it was the other way around. I can't actually remember. But point is, they were both engaged in that activity. This movie was funny as hell, and yeah, I mean, it was just Bryan Cranston being Bryan Cranston. Of course, in Breaking Bad, he has God knows how many scenes of him. It's just him in his underwear. In Why Him, of course, you have the toilet scene, and yeah, he enjoyed that. Taking a turn to number 53 is going to be The Conjuring 2. Now, as I said earlier, The Conjuring is, you know, one of my favorite movies. And the second one, all I knew about it was that it introduced the character of Valak, the nun, obviously. And this one, honestly, if it wasn't for this one issue, this would probably be in the top 20. I think that this movie is just, it's like 15 minutes too long. 15-20 minutes way too long. because I was watching the movie. I was like, oh my god, how much longer do I have? Surely it's almost over. There was still 20 minutes left of the movie. So I definitely think if they just shortened it a little bit, this would have been like a 10 out of 10. This movie is, but I'm not saying that because the movie was bad. The movie was awesome. It was really, really good. You had, of course, the nun painting is like one of the best scenes in all of horror. In my humble opinion, I think that scene is just brilliant. I mean, it's not for me, but obviously that scene literally made me do this. Again, not for me, but I mean, I had to do it. This is, yeah, maybe I shouldn't actually give this to anybody. Dude, that scene is so good. But yeah, the demons in this movie, I think, are the only thing that let it down. Not because the demons are bad, but because they show the demons more, it's less scary. And that's why, like, the first Conjuring, I know I keep bringing it up, but I watched that last year, that's why it's not on the list. It was scary, it was terrifying, until the part where we saw Bathsheba, taking over the mum and stuff. Until that point, it was terrifying. Afterwards, it was kind of like, okay, not as scary, but we had to have a third act. We couldn't just have the tension for the entire runtime. So, it makes sense. This movie is more tolerable, like as far as a watch, because it's not as tension-filled as the first one. But yeah, you got some really cool demons in here. Bill Wilkins, of course, a great jump scare as well with the TV. Of course, Valak, a very, very creepy image. But, really an underrated one is the Crooked Man. The Crooked Man, I think, is just absolutely fantastic. And fun fact, he was designed by Jared Kachevsky, the same guy who designed Mechagodzilla in Godzilla vs. Kong. He designed Godzilla's evolved form for Godzilla X Kong. I believe he did Shimo as well. So, yeah, really, really good design. And I wish that the Crooked Man had got his own movie. Coming in at number 52 is going to be Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials. Now, this one is, of course, the kind of middle chapter of the Maze Runner trilogy. And it didn't actually feel like filler. I was thoroughly entertained with this. And I kind of like these like post-apocalyptic movies. I don't know what it is, but I really, really liked this one because I felt more connected to the characters this time, and there was actually tension. But I wanted to fucking kill that girl. I think her name was Teresa, the chick who ended up betraying them. I freaking hated her because they put like all her faith in her, and she was like, nah, sorry, we need the cure. Sorry. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one because I don't know, like I watched the first one, I was like, it's probably going to go downhill from here. But no, this one was actually pretty solid. That being said, number 51 is going to be the first Maze Runner. Again, much like Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, kind of cheating because I watched this a very long time ago, but I didn't remember anything other than the fact that the monsters are called Grievers. So basically I went in blind with this one. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. I think that they handled the maze itself wonderfully. I'm pretty sure these movies are based on books. But yeah, this movie itself I thought was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I know I keep kind of saying the same thing, but what else must I say? I like the characters, I like the story, I like the directing. Even when they are stuck in the maze, they didn't keep things so dark that you can't see anything. Alien vs. Predator Requiem. It was really, really good. And yeah, that kind of that 2-hour runtime, it just kind of flew by. It honestly felt like I'd watched an episode of a TV show. It was great. Number 50 is going to be Maze Runner: The Death Cure. And, yes, I know, there's plenty of times here where, for, trilogies, they end up being, consecutive, one after the other. But there's nothing else I can do because it's hard to rank them compared to other movies that are so different from them. That being said, Death Cure was probably my favorite. It is very close between the first Maze Runner and this one, but I don't know, I just really had fun with this one. The action sequences I thought were great. It had some fantastic deaths, mainly the character of Newt. Oh man, that was hard to watch, I'll be honest. That was very difficult to watch. But yeah, I really actually enjoyed this one. And also the guy who, oh, I forgot his name. Shit, the doctor, the bad doctor guy. He was in the opening of The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, he was the guy who was like threatening the thugs on the plane. So yeah, useless information. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But yeah, this was probably my favorite one. I really enjoyed this one. Coming at number 49, and it breaks my heart to do this, but it is going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this is a good movie. It's a good movie because let me just put some context here, right? All I knew about this movie, I of course knew the what a wonderful day. So I was waiting to see Proxima Caesar, but I had just watched the Planet of the Apes trilogy. And, of course those movies are exceptional. And that's when I was like, you know what? Even though it's like July, the Kingdom is still in cinemas, I might as well go watch it. This movie has several issues, but it did not feel like Kung Fu Panda 4 or Descendants Rise of Red, where it felt like a sequel that was just shoved out for the sake of. This actually felt like a really good sequel to the Planet of the Apes trilogy, because you have Noah, who is a fantastic protagonist. I honestly, of course, he's nowhere near the level of Caesar, but I'm more than happy for him to be the new ape that we follow throughout these movies. I think he's a great character. And Proxima Caesar is really one of the few things that let this movie down, because the villain, yes, I know this was my fault for being excited for the villain, but Proximus was only introduced like halfway through the movie. And this was the problem with Godzilla and Kong, is they only introduced the villain halfway through the film. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, it seems to be these ape villains. It seems to be the ape villains. But the main things that let this movie down is it is a bit too long. I do think they could have cut maybe 10-15 minutes from the runtime. And the character of May, I don't know about you, she annoyed me. Like, again, I've said that it annoys me when you have these, I mean, she's not a kid, but characters like this who are just introduced and they don't talk. But with this movie, it makes sense because, of course, the humans can't talk. But yeah, I don't know, there's just something about her that really annoyed me, and I didn't really care for her character at all. I was just interested in the apes. So yeah, this movie is definitely, it deserves to be higher on the list. It just, with the expectations I had for it, it just didn't meet it, because mainly with the side characters, this movie just kind of felt like like the shell of what used to be the Planet of the Apes movies, because you had characters like Rocket, like Maurice, characters like that. And then here, the newer characters like the orangutan, whatever his name was, Anaya, I remember the name, but that's it. I don't even remember any of their names. So yeah, the side characters just really, they fumbled it with this movie, I think. But yeah, still solid film and a solid continuation of the Planet of the Apes franchise. Coming in at number 48 is going to be Abigail. And I'm just saying this, I probably should have said this earlier, but from Pearl onwards, I actually really like these movies. From Predator onwards. From Predator onwards, I actually really like these movies. So Abigail is a movie that I was curious about, because I've never really watched any vampire movies. So of course I know, all the things with like the garlic and this wooden stakes and all this stuff. But Abigail, I think, played on those tropes perfectly. And of course, you got probably the best line of, or one of the best lines of any movie of last year.
Sammy, those are fucking onions.
It was just brilliant. The cast was fantastic. The cast was brilliant in this movie. You have Melissa Barrera. You have, I forgot his name. Shit, not Kevin Durant. That's not it. Is that? No, I don't think so. But basically, he's Proxima Caesar. You got Angus Cloud. I know he passed away. You got Catherine Newton. Dan Stevens, Giancarlo Esposito. You got a fantastic cast here, and you honestly didn't want any of the characters to die, because you were having so much fun with all of them. Even the actress who plays Abigail, I think, did a fantastic job. And this movie was interesting because they revealed the twist in the trailer. I mean, the movie is called Abigail, so if you want, like, it's in the title, you know, Abigail is clearly up to something, and I think they handled this movie fantastically. You know, it was just a lot of fun, a lot of bloody fun, and yeah, it was brilliant. It really, really was. I mean, number 47 is going to be Alien Romulus, and this is one that I really had high expectations going into because people were praising this movie. They were praising it like more than when Prey came out in 2022. They were like, Alien Romulus is the best movie in the franchise since Aliens. And, you know, I was really interested to see what they were going to do with this because I heard, you know, obviously that it was a prequel. It was a prequel between the first Alien movie and Aliens. And I was interested to see what they were going to do here. And they actually did a really good job. Of course, you have Fede Alvarez here, who did the 2013 Evil Dead movie. Although, if you look at the violence, you would never say it's the same director. Because my main gripe with this movie is that it wasn't very gory. That is it. That's like, there wasn't much blood, but it doesn't really need it. It was just a minor thing that it was like a nitpick, you know. But this movie I thought was great. You know, you have Rain was an alright main character, but Andy, oh my god, Andy was such a great side character. I forgot the actor's name. I think it's David Johnson. He did a fantastic job. Both versions of Andy, you know, the normal version and when he like gets the new chip and stuff. But mainly, one thing that I loved here was the practical xenomorphs. You know, I love practical effects. I love animatronics. So to have them in the modern day use full xenomorph puppets was just fantastic. They looked so good. And then, of course, you have the, you know, something from Alien Resurrection, which they have retreaded, is the alien-human hybrid. Now, they did it differently here than they did back then, because there they did have it. It honestly, it kind of looked like Sandman if Sandman got wet. that's what kind of what it looked like. Here, oh my god, that reveal scene is freaking amazing, because you have Andy just slowly turn around and the music is building and building and building, and then it just cuts out. And then, you know, you have that, it's not in the middle of the frame, and that's what I loved about it. The camera was kind of zoomed out, and you see that thing standing there, and oh my god, it was so good. It really, really was. And yeah, Alien Romulus, it was a really, really good movie, and I'm so happy that Fede Alvarez is doing a sequel to it. I mean, number 46 is going to be Longlegs. Now, this I honestly didn't know what to expect going into this movie, because this has got to be the most overhyped horror film of the year, by the way. People were going on about this movie like there's no tomorrow. They were saying it is the scariest movie of the year, and of course, this happens with every freaking movie. They go, oh, it's the scariest horror movie of the year. Oh my god, it's so terrifying. Nicolas Cage is horrifying. His design is so creepy. And I honestly watched it with moderate expectations, because of course I didn't want to go in expecting an amazing, terrifying horror film. And this I actually watched with my family. This was interesting because it's kind of like an old school detective horror. It's not really horror. You know, it's kind of like Silence of the Lambs. And it's very clear that's what this was alluding to, is those kind of movies. And I thought that it was great. I really enjoyed Longlegs. The movie was really well made. And Nicolas Cage, I thought, was fantastic. You know, of course, he doesn't survive the whole movie, but I really liked some sequences here. The scene of when the main detective, I forgot her name, she goes back to her house, her little cabin. That entire scene is just terrifying. It's so creepy, and it was fantastic. It really, really was. But the main thing that actually scared me in this movie is the doll. I'm not scared of dolls, of course, but that later explanation scene, I think it's when the mum is explaining everything. There's that shot of the doll with the black cloak over its face and its eyes are glowing. That is honestly the one thing where I actually had to put my hand in front of my face. That was fucking terrifying. So yeah, Longlegs is a movie that honestly I see people more appreciating than enjoying, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. But yeah, solid film. Solid film. It's just that people really overhyped it. Coming number 45, a drastic change in tone is going to be superhero movie. This is just something that was on Netflix and I was like, I'm not doing anything, let me watch this dumb thing, because of course it's by the same guys that made Scary Movie, and I really love Scary Movie. This movie is just so freaking stupid and fucking hilarious. I love it. It was brilliant. All the little references, the parodies, it was absolutely brilliant. Like when when the main dude comes into the house and was it the uncle or whatever it was, he was like, oh, well, why don't you try, because he catches the fly and the uncle's like, oh, try again, and then he just he hits Kevin Hart's character. It's brilliant. The movie is so funny, but probably my favorite part is when they go to the X mansion and Professor X, who is using the freaking I forgot what it's called. That thing that Paul Blart uses. Oh my god, that's gonna piss me off now. What is that thing called? Not a hoverboard. Is it? No, but not a hoverboard. But basically, you know what I'm talking about. And he's standing up and using it, and then they're talking about his kids, and there's a doll in a fucking wheelchair. It's so good, man. This was made for people like me, superhero fans. This is brilliant. It really was. So yeah, superhero movie. Dumb as hell, exactly what you expect from the creators of Scary Movie. Coming in at number 44, it's a lot higher than its sequel, is The First Smile. Now, this I was really cautious going into because I didn't know what to expect. And I know I'm saying that with every single freaking horror movie here, but it's true. All I knew is, of course, is what was in the trailers. So the smile. All I knew is that there's the smile, and the movie was so much better than I thought it was gonna be. This was awesome. It really was. There were some sequences here which were just brilliant, and if I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a lot of scenes in here that are just so much better than in the sequel, because I said it was Smile 2. It is just very derivative of this first movie. And also, I cannot believe I forgot to mention it in the Smile 2 segment, but the demon in this movie looks so cool. It's so badass. And, especially it's the reveal, it's the way it's revealed. Because you have the demon kind of looking like Rose's mum. And then it just pulls its face off, and you see the mouth going on and on and on. It was so cool. That was such an awesome reveal. In Smile 2, they completely botch it because I don't know why they did this. I have no clue why they did this. Why they changed the design of the creature, but it looks so dumb. It's so stupid. Oh my god! It looks like a red Peter Griffin. Like, you cannot convince me otherwise. You have such a badass design over here. And over here, it's just the stupid, cartoon-looking thing. I don't know how, what moron would find that scary? I don't understand, man. I really don't understand. But yeah, this first movie was so good. And if I'm going to be honest with you, there's not really many horror movies that, stick with me. But the shot of Laura in the dark, that I absolutely can't deal with. That is horrifying, and I can't, even if my light is off on the one part of my room, I look in the corner, oh god, that's a really horrible. So yeah, for a concept which seems really stupid, they executed this movie fantastically. Really well done. Coming in number 43 is going to be Thanksgiving. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, I did not care. I watched this movie not caring about what it's about. I only watched it for one reason. I wanted to watch Addison Rae be killed. Because obviously, I just really wanted to see that happen. And she was one of the few people who survived the movie. I cannot tell you how pissed off I was, because I was like, yes, finally, I'm gonna see her get killed. But nope, 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 nope. You couldn't kill her. You know, you killed everyone else off. You killed Gina Gershon, but no, you let Addison Rae live. I see how it is. I honestly couldn't believe it. You got Patrick Dempsey in this movie, who, of course, I love Patrick Dempsey. I love him. I love him. I love him. And really, I should have guessed that he was the killer. I really should have. But I don't know. I don't know. He's too charming. You know, he's too good looking. He's too charming, man. I can't judge the guy. And I'm pretty sure 2025 that we're getting Thanksgiving 2 this year. So yeah, he is most likely alive. I think, especially with the ending, he's definitely alive. But yeah, this movie was just bloody. It was gory. It was, you know, uncomfortable to watch. But mainly it was fun, and that's what it was. It was fun, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed Thanksgiving, and mainly because I went in with no expectations. I just wanted to see this one character get killed. But yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. Number 42 is going to be Insidious. This movie is fucking awesome. This has some insane jump scares in it, and that is the only reason why it is so low. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because on your first watch you get caught off guard by almost everything. But I haven't rewatched this movie, but I kind of don't want to, because I feel like the constant jump scare noises will eventually just be a headache. But what can I say? I've only seen it once. This movie was cool. It was really, really creepy. You know, there were really scary things in it. The only thing I knew about it, I wish that I didn't know this, is of course the famous jump scare of the Darth Maul demon being behind Patrick Wilson's face. His head. That's literally all I knew, because of course every single freaking YouTube reaction channel uses that shot in their thumbnail. But if I didn't know that was in the movie, I probably would have had a heart attack in that scene. That was great. But yeah, no, this movie was really, really good, and you can tell that this was kind of like the trial run for The Conjuring, because there's many things, like there's two types of horror movies, and it's ironic because these are both made by James Wan. The Conjuring and Insidious, two horror films on the opposite ends of the spectrum. The Conjuring is entirely tension based. There's very few jump scares in that movie. There's maybe 2, 3. Insidious, all jump scares, and it is pretty creepy, you know, especially with the bride in black. Oh, very, very creepy. This movie was great. I really, really enjoyed this one. Coming in at number 41 is going to be Deadpool 2. And this one, you know, it is still a really good sequel to that first Deadpool movie. I don't know what it was about this one, but it wasn't as charming as that first movie, you know. There's some great characters in here. You know, Cable, of course, Josh Brolin. You got Thanos here. You have the guy from Godzilla vs Kong. You have the girl from Joker. You have the girl from Joker. I forgot her name, but yeah, this movie was quite funny. Apart from the opening. The opening was, oh my god, why? that was insane, that opening sequence. This is a lot more action packed than the first Deadpool movie, and you know, I can understand people liking this more than the first one, but for me it's just the first one is like a commodity, you know. It was such a thing, and this one I don't think it was as funny as the first movie as well. But yeah, Deadpool 2, solid sequel. Number 40 is going to be X2 X-Men United. I am one of the few people who actually prefers the first X-Men movie to X2, but this movie is a lot of fun. It's action-packed. You know, you got some more X-Men being more prominent in the story. You have, of course, Magneto's team and Charles's team kind of teaming up for part of the movie. This one is it's really good. It has one of the best openings of a comic book movie, of course, with Nightcrawler, entering the White House and stuff. It was really, really good. And Yeah, X2 is still like probably the standard to beat when it comes to sequels, because it was this movie that made people go, if X-Men 3 is amazing, if it's this level, this will be one of the best trilogies of all time. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. Number 39 is going to be Wolf of Wall Street. Of course, I love Margot Robbie. I love her. And of course, I had to watch this movie because why wouldn't you? I honestly completely forgot that Leonardo DiCaprio was in this movie. He's the main guy. But yeah, this movie I thought was funny. It was awesome. Of course, you have Margot Robbie. But the only reason that it's not as high as it's a little lower than it should be is just that it was way too long. And this movie is 3 hours long. I really don't think that this warrants such a long runtime. But yeah, this is also a movie where, you know, like Sophia from The Penguin is considered unattractive. What? Yeah, no, this movie was good. It was good, but that last they could have trimmed off like half an hour. Like really, this movie is way too long for what it is. But most of it, solid. Number 38 is going to be Despicable Me 4. This movie I actually thought was quite funny because I love the first 3 Despicable Me movies and both the Minions movies. So Despicable Me 4, I was like, okay, let's see what they're gonna do here. I liked what they set up with the villain because Maxime was set up to be essentially like the evil Gru. You know, he went down the dark path that Gru deviated from. Instead of having minions, he had cockroaches, which I hate cockroaches. But he ended up just being an absolutely empty villain. And that really is the main problem with this movie. I did not care for Maxime at all. I thought he was absolutely stupid and ridiculous. And, you know, there were several moments of this movie that I thought were just really cringe. And even like Poppy, you have the creepy, weird teenager. I don't know, man. This movie, it had things going for it. It was funny. That's the only reason it's up here, is because there were many funny moments. But yeah, if the villain was just as strong as, say, Vector or, you know, like El Macho or even Balthazar Brat, this movie would be way higher. And speaking of which, of course, you have the glorious scene at the end where you have all the villains coming from the AVL and dancing to Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And my god, that scene is just so good. Probably one of my favorite scenes of this franchise, to be honest. It was just so fan servicey. I love it. And with that song, fuck yes! Number 37 is going to be the first Mission Impossible. This was good. I love this franchise. And this first Mission Impossible movie is just iconic. You know, there's very little about this movie you can criticize. It was just fantastic. Of course, you have one of the most iconic sequences in history, that being Tom Cruise with the wire, you know, almost touching the floor when he goes to get the disc or whatever, the disc, yeah. It was just fantastic. This whole movie was just a lot of fun. It was good. It was cool to watch. And yeah, if only we knew how much cooler this movie would be, or this franchise, should I say, after this first film. Number 36 is going to be Inside Out. And this is a movie that one of my friends told me to watch. And I kind of didn't know what to expect because I heard of this movie for a long time and all I knew was that Bing Bong died. I remember Bing Bong, and even, you know, knowing that Bing Bong dying was a really sad scene. But this is a very original movie. I loved it. It was so creative. It was very clever. And I don't know, man. It was really, really good. And I think that this is the perfect movie for a kid to watch. You know, Pixar, of course, knocks it out of the park with almost everything they do. And yeah, I think Inside Out is it's one of those movies. And, you know, going on from that, number 35 is going to be Inside Out 2. Now, Inside Out and Inside Out 2, I think, are very similar movies. They're very, very similar. And this is more like Inside Out 2's fault. So really, it should be below it. But I enjoyed Inside Out 2 more, if I'm going to be honest with you. You had Riley, who's in the teenage stage of her life, wanting to fit in and all that. And then you have the new emotions, which really, Maya Hawke, anxiety, the best part of this movie. She is fantastic. And especially, you know, watching, like, Stranger Things Season 3, she was more like the confident girl. Stranger Things Season 4, she is like a nervous wreck, you know, she has like verbal diarrhea and she's so anxious all the time. And when I heard she was playing Anxiety, I was like, this is the most perfect thing in the world. So yeah, Anxiety, fantastic antagonistic character. And yeah, this movie was just, it was good. You know, both movies have you tearing up. Both Inside Outs are fantastic. Number 34 is going to be Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Now, this one, it did kind of disappoint me, but there were many funny sequences in this movie, mainly between Mark Strong's character and Taron Egerton's character Eggsy. You know, it was, especially when they were drunk. But yeah, this movie, it wasn't as good. It wasn't as good as the first one, not even close. But you have some great sequences here. Of course, really, if you trusted Pedro Pascal with that mustache, you deserve to be killed. But of course, you do have the country road, take me home. You know, of course, the death of Mark Strong's character. That was a great death scene. It wasn't particularly sad, like it didn't get tears out of me. But the way that they played it with, you know, the West Virginia and all that, it was just brilliant. So yeah, it was really good. It wasn't as good as the first one. And if I'm going to be honest with you, as much as I loved, I forgot the character's name now. Shit. The guy that Samuel L. Jackson killed in the first one. I really don't think they should have brought him back in this movie. I think they should have just left him dead because that was fantastic. But yeah, still, solid sequel. Coming in at number 33 is going to be A Quiet Place Day 1. This is one of the 4 movies that I watched on literally New Year's Eve, the 31st of December. And this one, I was really interested to see what they were going to do with this concept of the oh shit, I forgot what you call them, but the aliens, the Death Angels, I think that's what they're called, the Death Angels in a city, because of course, you know, we've seen them in like a farm area, we've seen them on basically an island, but we've never seen them in a city with buildings and things like this. So, you know, this was a really cool, and I think that this movie was great because it's also something that it is more subtle with its messages and things like that, because of course this is a prequel to the main 2 Quiet Place films, so it is kind of like you kind of know that these characters, you know, or at least most of them will die, but it does a great job with the messaging, mainly with the entire, like, this is the definition of a movie. I know I'm just going on. This is the definition of a movie that if you just tell someone the plot, they will be like, what the hell are you on about? You know, you say the main character has these aliens come down to Earth, destroy everything around her, and she spends the movie trying to get a slice of pizza. Again, very dumb explanation, but I think how the movie handled it was fantastic because it really made you think, like, and it does this before the aliens even come to Earth, because Sam, I believe her name was, Lupita Nyong'o's character, she has cancer. So she knows that she is going to die. And that whole thing with the aliens just kind of really made her go, you know what? I'm going to die soon. What is something that I need to do before I die? Something that you want to revisit. Because, of course, that makes you think. You know, if you know that you're going to die, what is something that you want to revisit? You know, like one last slice of pizza from this place that, you know, you went to as a kid. Things like that. So, yeah, apart from just the fact that the movie itself was great, it's amazing how you can make these full-length movies of barely any dialogue. It really was fantastic, especially the beginning part of when the aliens came to Earth. You know, you have the I forgot the actor's name, but the guy who was in the second Quiet Place movie, he was here, and he actually killed someone because they were talking. And you know, that's another movie where I was like, wow, that was really well done. That was really, really well done. The cinematography in this movie as well was just gorgeous. So yeah, A Quiet Place Day 1, well done. A worthy horror prequel. That is a rare commodity. Coming in at number 32, we are starting the quadrilogy of movies from the same franchise that could honestly interchange. But I think with number 32, I am going to go with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. And for those of you saying, oh my god, this is like your second least favorite of the Mission Impossible franchise, about that. So, I keep track of the movies that I watch on Letterboxd, and for some reason, until yesterday, I forgot to add Mission Impossible 2 and 3. So unfortunately, I watched 102 movies last year. So that sucks. But I mean, they weren't really that important anyway. They were like number 38 or something. But yeah, Dead Reckoning is awesome. This movie is just so cool. Does it help the fact that Haley Atwell is in it? Yes. Look, man, this movie was really, really good. And it's just the one nitpick that I have with it is that it's called Dead Reckoning Part 1. Because, of course, this was meant to be Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then the next movie is meant to be Dead Reckoning Part 2. But then, of course, they changed it, so the next movie is The Final Reckoning. So now it's annoying that you have Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then the next movie is The Final Reckoning. So, but it's fine. This movie, it was solid. I love the new antagonist that we have here. It's not a person, but it just goes to show this movie just, we didn't need any more elaboration, but of course it just further shows what a death wish Tom Cruise has. I am so sick of seeing the frickin', motorbike stunt with the mountain, but, still watching it, it was really, really good. I still remember, I think it was Fast X I went to go see, and they showed like a 10-minute thing of that, and honestly, I hadn't seen a Mission Impossible movie at that point, so I was sick of seeing that. But yeah, Dead Reckoning, solid entry. Really, really solid entry. Number 31 is going to be probably most people's favorite of the franchise, and that is Mission Impossible Fallout. This is the movie that really just kind of changed the game. Because this is, as I said, most people that I have asked has Fallout as their favorite, because this movie is just insane, especially the cast you have here, like holy shit. This is also the movie responsible for Henry Cavill, his stupid fucking CGI face in the 2017 Justice League, but it was worth it because he was really good in this movie. But one thing that I did want to point out about Fallout is I had watched the first 4, and my mom loves this franchise. I watched the first 4, and I went down to get a glass of water, and I was like, what I love about this franchise is that the movies aren't like 2.5 hours long. And then I literally get on the bed, I click on Fallout, and I see 2 hours 20. I was like, oh my god. But no, that just flew by that time, honestly. The movie was really, really good. I love the stunts in this movie. Of course, you have the entire helicopter sequence, and you also get Henry Cavill as Two-Face. So, that was pretty solid. I honestly, one thing that this movie did really well is that it kind of had you guessing with the motives of Henry Cavill's character, because you could tell that he wasn't 100% on Ethan Hunt's side, but you didn't really know what the angle was there. I thought he was just trying to get him arrested, but no, he was working for the villain from the previous movie. I forgot his name, but yeah, that was something I did not expect. Speaking of, coming in at number 30 is going to be Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. This was another just a fantastic entry. Like, I'm going to be saying the same thing for the Mission Impossible movies. These movies are so freaking good, and it's just insane because here you have what is, in my opinion, the best villain of the franchise. I thought that he was actually really intimidating, and I kind of honestly didn't think that Ethan was going to get him in this movie. I thought maybe it was going to happen in the next one, but no, it was really, really good. Fantastic villain, of course. Even more great stunts. Not my favorite. My favorite one is still coming up. But yeah, Rogue Nation is just, it was so good. It was so good. Honestly, one of my favorite scenes is possibly when Ethan gets gassed. I think that's probably my favorite one, is when Ethan gets gassed in the beginning of the movie. And yeah, and of course, I believe it's this movie where you have the introduction of Rebecca Ferguson's character. And I'm sorry, I saw her in The Greatest Showman first, so I cannot look at her and go, oh my god, it's the Never Enough lady. I know she didn't sing the song, guys, relax. But yeah, Rogue Nation, fantastic. Number 27 is going to be the end of this little quadrilogy, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This is, I said it was close. This is easily my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies. Like, these movies are so freaking good, but this one was my favorite one. Probably because of how much it surprised me. This could change, in a couple of years. But as of right now, with all the movies somewhat fresh in my head, this one surprised me the most, and I was so happy watching it. It was so much fun. It was really, really good. And even though his character is kind of shit, you do have the villain, the actor who played Vigo in John Wick. You have him here. Of course, nowhere near as good as he was in John Wick. He barely even a character here. But this movie has, in my opinion, or at least my favorite stunt in this franchise, and that has to be the Burj Khalifa scene. I cannot believe it, honestly. Like, it looks high in the movie. It looks like he's high up in the movie. But between the segments of this video, I went to Dubai. And it's a good thing I watched Ghost Protocol before I went there. Because as soon as I was basically at the bottom of the Burj Khalifa. I look up and I'm like, oh my god, this thing is like, it's a really tall building. It really, really is. And it just makes me kind of appreciate that scene even more. So, yeah, Ghost Protocol. Fucking amazing movie, man. Coming in number 28 is going to be probably one of my most anticipated films of last year. And that is going to be Terrifier 3. I absolutely love Terrifier 2. Is it a bit too long? Yes, but when of course it was a crowdfunding project, and Damien Leone wanted to give the fans the full cut of the movie, since they were basically, they were the ones that funded it. And I was really interested to see what they were going to do with T3. I mean, come on, like, really, oh my god, I was so annoyed that I wasn't able to see this in cinemas, because this poster is from the cinema. And unfortunately, they only had it at 8 p.m. showings. And that really, really sucks, because I wanted to go. But going to where the cinema is at 8 in the night, yeah, that's kind of a pain in the ass. But this movie, I think, it would have been much higher if I got what I wanted from it. And yes, I know most people look at this and go, oh, you know what I mean? These movies are nothing other than gore. But Terrifier 2 actually set up a really good story with, Sienna, of course, one of probably the best final girl we've had in years, in so many years. And I was so fascinated with the history of Art the Clown and what they're gonna do, how they're gonna connect it to Sienna's dad. But really, what Terrifier 3 did was essentially just create more questions. You almost leave Terrifier 3 with the same amount of questions as you did when you left Terrifier 2. It's just different questions. So I like the theory that they are proposing in this movie of, like, the demon possesses the like a victim of a really terrible serial killer and stuff like that. But yeah, Vicky in this movie, honestly, really creepy. I always found her scarier than Art. And speaking of Art, the kills in this movie are fantastic. They really, really are. None are to the point of, like, gagging or vomiting. I do think that people overdo it with that, but just seeing the effects in these movies, the practical effects are so beautiful. They are, okay, beautiful is not really the word to use in this context. The practical effects are fantastic. They really, really are. And it's not as bad as the ball stomp in Maxine, but the shower scene was pretty good. That was clearly their, like, big set piece of the film. But yeah, that scene in Maxine where she stomps the guy's balls still gets a worse reaction out of me than any of the Terrifier films. So yeah, Terrifier 3, a movie which I still hold dearly because I love this franchise, apart from the first movie, that was pretty crap. I love Art the Clown, I love what they're doing with these movies, I love how it's getting bigger and they're expanding the lore. I'm just really hoping that with Terrifier 4, they can explain more stuff, because I really don't think we can keep dragging this lore and history out for God knows how many movies. We need some answers now.
I'm here after Damien Leone confirmed Terrifier 4 and the fact that we will be getting Art's origin story in this movie, since this is the last Terrifier movie. So yeah, Pass Chavez, you got exactly what you wanted.
But still, brutal as fuck. And as Cody Leach called it, Terrifier 3, fuck them kids. Coming in number 27 is going to be Venom: The Last Dance. I absolutely love the first Venom movie. The first Venom movie has got to be one of my most surprising films ever, because I don't know what I expected going into it, but I absolutely love that movie. I really, really do. I think it was the perfect blend of somewhat seriousness and comedy. Then the second movie really disappointed me with how overly comedic it was. You can't have a movie with carnage in it, literally in a movie made for kids, like for 2-year-olds, there's no blood. And then you get to Venom: The Last Dance, and I think that this was definitely an improvement over the last one. This movie, if it literally just fixed one issue, it would be so much higher on this list. The comedy in this movie I thought was way better than the previous film, but the whole story, like subplot with the family, I thought was just incredibly boring and really just slowed the film down. I was actually more interested in what was going on in the lab, because at least there they were dealing with the symbiotes. But yeah, the whole thing with the family I thought was just really dumb. But mainly the thing that most people were interested with this movie is the introduction of Null. Null is one of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel. And they just chuck him in a Venom movie. Not just a Venom movie, the last Venom movie. They just chuck him in, being like, yeah, he'll return one day. And you get Andy Serkis to do this. Like Caesar. You get Caesar to do this. And you don't even have him speak half the time, because it's just ADR. They just added it in later. You can see Null isn't talking when his voice is playing. It's really terrible. I think the design of him is pretty basic. I don't really know what else you could do to change it, to be honest, so I can't really complain. But yeah, this movie was funny. I really liked the third act. I thought it was fantastic. And Venom's sacrifice, it actually did get to me. I won't lie, because of course, as I said, loved the first Venom movie. I've lost track of how many times I watched it, especially in 2019. But yeah, just seeing Venom die like that was pretty crazy. It was really, really sad. But hopefully, the one that we get with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, hopefully that'll be a proper Venom. Coming in at number 26 is going to be something that, honestly, this could go way higher on the list, and it probably will, is going to be The Substance. This is the final movie that I watched last year. I finished it at 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve. This was fantastic. This was brilliant. It was so good that we have gotten a horror film to be nominated for 5 Oscars. Yes, the fact that I'm talking about the Oscar nominations shows you how long I've been recording this video. I'm so happy with how this movie turned out, because I knew nothing about it. I knew absolutely nothing except for the poster. So of course, once she took the substance and entered the bathroom, I was like, okay, her back's gonna obviously split open. But still seeing the scene and the way like her eyeball like split, there were 2 pupils, it was, oh god. I'm gonna be honest with you, I mentioned that I definitely think people overreact with Terrifier 3, like vomiting and stuff. This, if I'm gonna be honest with you, is probably the most disgusting movie I've ever watched. This is so hard for me to look at and not at least get queasy. Like, especially the last act, when you have Monstro Alyssa Sue literally having, oh god, just saying it is fucking strange, having a boob come out of her eye socket and then just fall out. Oh my god, it's so disgusting. Oh god. But at the same time, as horrifically gross as this movie is, it is a fantastic film. It really, really is. You have Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley here playing the younger and older version of the same person. And honestly, look, I don't mean to be shallow. I think that Margaret Qualley is gorgeous, but I actually think Demi Moore is hotter. I don't like. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't look at Demi Moore. She's like what, 62, 63. She's like Jim Carrey's age, and she looks like that. She's stunning. She is gorgeous, and for her to be like, oh my god, I'm so ugly. This is like becoming like one of my new favorite genre of movies. Chuck in Barbie and the Substance. You have gorgeous, gorgeous women thinking that they are freaking hideous, and I'm like, darling, come on, you're stunning. But yeah, the just the messaging and the commentary with this movie of how, mainly in Hollywood, how older women are treated, and it, once they're aging, and it's not like something that they can control. It's fantastic the way that they did it. How, of course, it ended with her, of course, creating Sue, and then Sue creating Monster Alyssa Sue, and then to look beautiful, she uses Demi Moore's face. That was so good. That is amazing writing. And yeah, I really hope that this movie wins at least 2 of the Oscars it's nominated for. It's nominated for Best Picture, Best Lead Actress, Best Makeup and Hairstyling. I don't think it was I don't even know it was Best Directing, but yeah, yeah, Best Director, yes, and something else which I forgot. But it's fine. I am just so happy that this is a horror film that is getting recognized for the Oscars. Coming in at number 25, I am so happy to put this on the list. Finally, I can say I have watched this movie, and it is Psycho. Just to clarify, the original Psycho. No remake, none of this bullshit. This is the OG. And my god, this was so good. It was phenomenal. It really was. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I actually did watch the first maybe 20 minutes or so already in 2023, because I watched it on the plane, and I was like, you know what, I got enough time to watch Psycho. I don't know how they had Psycho on the plane, but anyway, thanks Qatar. I was watching it, and then the plane landed way earlier than expected. The one time I did not want that to happen. But yeah, I don't remember what part I stopped at, but I just didn't remember much. So basically watching this was watching it for the first time. Norman Bates has got to be one of the best horror villains ever. He was, just the way that Anthony Perkins expressed both sides of Norman Bates is fantastic. I mean, I got his Funko Pop right there, and I'm so happy because it's the only Funko Pop that I have in a protective case. This character was phenomenal. I loved it. It has a really horrifying scene because, of course, this movie is in black and white. It was 1960, and it's mainly the scene of when I forgot Janet Leigh's sister's name in the movie. She turns the chair around and she sees Norma Bates' skeleton, and then just you hear the footsteps coming, and then you just see Norman dressed in the dress. He has a wig on, and the way that the light, because she hits the light is swinging and the light goes in and out, because of course the movie is black and white. It just adds to the effect, and it's so good. It makes me so upset that we don't get more black and white films nowadays. But yeah, man, Psycho is an absolute classic. This movie is exceptional, and especially when you consider the fact that it came out 65 years ago. Oh my god, this is still, and also it has a fantastic jump scare with the staircase. But yeah, I seriously I can't believe it, how horror has just gone downhill. Because no hate on all of modern horror. I mean, I did just praise an exceptional one that came out last year, but there's so many films nowadays that try and scare you but fail miserably, and a film that came out nearly 70 years ago was absolutely horrifying.
So, of course, 1960 was way before, well, I wouldn't say way before, but it was before my parents' time. But I just decided to ask my grandfather, I was like, have you ever heard, did you hear the movie Psycho? And he was saying, yeah, was that the one with the guy with the split personality and Anthony Perkins? I don't think I have loved a grandparent more in my life because I really did not expect him to say that. And he was saying that he went and saw it, in the theater, and he wanted to take my grandmother to see it, but she didn't want to. And my God, it's so interesting, hearing him talk about it when it first came out. Because my God, I can just imagine what an event that must have been. I'm so unbelievably jealous of him.
So, Psycho, 10 out of 10. Absolute 10 out of 10. This movie was amazing. Coming in number 24 is going to be The Talented Mr. Ripley. This is a movie with Matt Damon, and honestly, I think he was in Ford vs. Ferrari. Apart from that, I didn't watch any movies with him. And this is a movie that my mom and sister told me to watch. And I was so tired. I was so tired when I was starting to watch this, because I was like, you know what? I'll watch the first maybe like 20 minutes now, and then I'll finish it tomorrow. And then I was watching, I was like, why would they tell me to watch this? Because they know what kind of movies I like. Why would they tell me to watch this? And then that scene happens. And yeah. Oh boy, this movie was just... honestly, I told you I was tired. I was nearly falling asleep. Not nearly falling asleep. I was falling asleep. And then I just woke up. I was fine the entire time. I finished the movie, and it was just fantastic. Just seeing how smart Mr. Ripley is, how intelligent he is with how he impersonates certain people, I thought was brilliant. I love that he kind of got away with it. And you also have Michelle Williams in this movie, who is the only one who can kind of see through Mr. Ripley's acts here. And I thought that this was just so good. It was really well thought out. There weren't really any plot holes that I could think of, but yeah, this was solid. Really well done. Coming in number 23 is going to be the last of this franchise, and that is going to be Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. I mean, was there really any doubt that this was going to be, like my favorite Star Wars movie? I loved this. I love Emperor Palpatine. I really like Darth Vader. So of course, you give me the movie where we finally get to see Anakin become Darth Vader. Fuck yes! This is awesome. You got Anakin, who literally kills the kids. Yeah. Terrifier 3 killed the kids, and it sparked so much controversy before the movie even released. But Anakin does it, and everyone is fine. Where's the logic? There's so many things I love about this movie, as far because even I said I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I mean, you saw how low the other movies were on the list, but this was so good. I was hooked. I really was. And I will admit, Anakin's change was a little bit sudden, and that's the thing when you're showing a good character and how they became evil. You have to make it a gradual and believable thing, and it's very hard to do. It is very difficult to do. But I just think that there is a slight nitpick, but I think that the action in this movie is fantastic. You get two fantastic lightsaber fights happening basically at the same time, with Anakin versus Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Yoda versus Darth Sidious. It was absolutely fantastic. The choreography in these movies are fantastic. I don't care what you say, the lightsaber fights are undoubtedly the best in the prequel trilogy, especially this movie. And yeah, nothing more I can say. Revenge of the Sith is the peak of Star Wars. I don't care. Going in at number 22 is going to be the first X-Men. And this movie is really interesting because this is so cheesy and 2000s-y, but I love it. I really love it. This is just, it's like the perfect start to an X-Men franchise because they explain everything very nicely. They get everything that you need to know. They get it like immediately to the audience. And I really love the characters in this movie. You get one of the most iconic comic book characters, live action, introduced in this movie, and that is Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I know he is basically the main character in these movies. They don't really let the X-Men shine until later films, but this was just a fantastic introduction to this character. But it's just the other X-Men as well. You have, of course, Professor X, you got Storm, you got Cyclops, you got Jean, you have Rogue, but mainly, we see the introduction of, by far, my favorite character in the X-Men franchise, and that is Magneto. Now, I love both versions of Magneto, both Michael Fassbender and Sir Ian McKellen, but I just love listening to Sir Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Stewart just speak to each other. I love listening to their voices. It's so good. And yeah, I just, there's so many things I love about this movie. It's just really fun. That's a good word to describe it, is fun. So yeah, that first X-Men, well done. You are the reason that the Marvel Cinematic Universe started, because this really, I know we had, other things, but if I'm going to be honest, this was the first proper big comic book movie. Coming in number 21 is going to be a big one, and that is Avatar. This is confusing, right? Because I thought for so long that I watched Avatar many years ago, and the only thing I remembered from it were these Mosasaurus-looking things. But in 2024, I watched it, and there's no such thing as mosasaur things in this movie. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with my brain that I thought that those creatures are from Avatar. And I thought that I had seen Avatar many years ago, but clearly I hadn't. And before you say, oh, you were thinking of Avatar 2, this was way before Avatar 2 even came out. So I really don't understand how I thought I watched this movie. But yeah, anyway, I thought this was really good. A very simple story, but of course, you have to mention it with Avatar. It is freaking gorgeous. It is so stunning. These movies are beautiful. They really are. You get this movie. I honestly thought that I clicked on the wrong film because I didn't know how it was going to open up, but I didn't expect what looked like astronauts, So yeah, that was really interesting. I love how they kind of but they show how you transfer your consciousness into the Na'vi. I thought that was really good. I loved Jake Sully's progression in the tribe. He went from like the joke and kind of like the guy that everyone just picks on to, literally taming the, what was it, Torok Maktu or something like that, the giant red dragon thing, which, by the way, the designs of the creatures in this movie are, like, amazing. They are gorgeous and really creative because the dragon things kind of have this spike on their chin so that when their mouth is closed, it looks like a duck's beak. It's really clever. I love what they did in this movie. And, even the scene when Mr. Quaritch, I believe his name is, the annoying guy from The Rookie, that one episode of The Rookie, the chief, where he just destroys the forest. That scene was very powerful. And, I'm bringing all this up, so I might as well get on to the next one. This is number 20, and that is going to be Avatar: The Way of Water. Basically everything I said about the previous movie, except it is 10 times more beautiful. I do think that this movie should have been probably 15 minutes shorter, because I think that the final battle gets drawn out a little bit too long. And yeah, apart from that, the visuals in this movie are they're amazing. And even this one, while of course it was difficult for me to keep track of all the kids because everyone and their freaking dog had a kid since the last movie, but yeah, it was so stunning. It really was. And that's the thing, is these Avatar movies have such simple stories, but because they are so gorgeous to look at, you kind of just forget about it and you're immersed in the world of Pandora. And I didn't get to watch, of course, I only saw the movies this year, so I didn't get to watch these in cinemas. So I am so excited for December when I get to watch Fire and Ash in 3D IMAX. Dude, that is gonna be the best thing ever. Coming in at number 19 is Logan. And before I give my actual thoughts on the movie itself, I'm going to say something that is going to piss you off. This was the third movie I watched this year. Deadpool, Deadpool 2, and then I turned to the Marvel subreddit and I was like, okay, I know that Logan is like one of the most praised comic book films of all time. Do I need to watch anything before watching this? They said it's all right. It's in a different continuity from the other movies. So I was like, okay, cool. I never watched a movie with Wolverine, and Logan was the first one. Yes, it's like I watched Avengers Endgame before I watched any of the other movies. So yeah, my opinion was very tainted on this movie when I first watched it. But then, of course, once I watched all the other X-Men movies, I rewatched this, and it shot up the list like a freaking rocket, because of course now I understand everything that happened, prior to this film, and I really just get to appreciate the change of Wolverine here, because Wolverine, in the main X-Men movies is very different to the Wolverine that is in Logan. It is so sad seeing him like this, all, like untidy, disheveled, his claws can't even come out. And it is really sad to see. And of course, that ending scene is absolutely heartbreaking. It really is. But honestly, the cherry on top was Laura taking the cross and putting it down to make an X. That, oh my god, that was horrible, dude. That really sucked. But yeah, my only slight nitpick with this movie, it's not really a negative, it's just a slight nitpick, is that I kind of wish that we could have seen what that sanctuary place looked like. I don't know why I say sanctuary, but if they crossed the border and the place they were looking for actually existed. I'd be lying if I said I didn't try Googling what the place was called. But yeah, the place that they were looking for, I kind of wanted to see whether it was real or not. But yeah, again, slight nitpick. Just this movie is so good. It is shot fantastically. There's just so many great scenes in this film, and it's just really sad as well. Of course, you have the death of Charles Xavier the second time, and yeah, it did hurt more than the first. I'm gonna be honest with you. That was a fantastically done death. So Logan, I'm sorry I watched you before anything else with Wolverine, but god damn it, you were fantastic. Number 18 is going to be a Hindi movie. Yes, a Hindi movie. It is going to be Drishyam. And yeah, I can't believe I watched a Hindi movie. I really can't. But a murder story, I'll watch it, even if it is in Hindi. This was actually, it was surprisingly good. I never expected to enjoy a Hindi movie just because it's not something that ever interested me. But the way that everything was played out here, I thought was brilliant. I love how smart Vijay was. I mean, I doubt any of y'all even watch this movie, but I might as well just, get my thoughts out there. It was really clever to see how Vijay and his family kind of try and get out of the situation after getting, after killing that kid. Which, by the way, his death was completely warranted. I mean, what he was going to do to the daughter and the wife? Hell no. Absolutely no. Kill him. Kill him slowly. Let him suffer. That kid deserves to die. But yeah. One thing that was pretty shocking is the mother of the kid that died, the police woman. She was actually Pi's mother in the Life of Pi film. So, fun fact. But yeah, a Hindi murder story. I'm down. Coming in number 17, and it's actually surprising how far this has gone down the list. This was the first film of 2024 that I watched, and that is Deadpool. Deadpool. I was so interested and excited to watch this because I had heard everyone talk about this movie because of just how funny it was and how violent it was, and my god, it was fantastic. This movie is so good, not just because it's funny, not just because it's bloody, but the story is fantastic. Wade Wilson in this movie is one of the most relatable characters as far as comic book movie protagonists goes, because yes, obviously he's a killer, he is a blatant killer. He's, kind of an idiot at times, but his story with this movie is that he, of course, he loves Vanessa. He does, but once he looks the way he does, kind of like the shriveled up nutsack, he actually doesn't go back to her. And I'm surprised because he's afraid of not being loved. And that really hit, because there's no human emotion that is more relatable to anyone than not being loved. And I absolutely love what they did in this movie with Deadpool. I really, really loved his connection with Vanessa. Of course, it started out as kind of like a comedic thing, where he's like, what's a nice place like you doing in a girl like this? It was really, really good. The writing was fantastic. The only nitpick about this movie, and I think everyone, even the people who love this movie to death, will admit that Francis is a pretty boring villain. Nothing really interesting about him. But yeah, if you gave this movie an amazing villain, this would be like top 10. This would be so much higher. But yeah, this movie is just, it's absolutely fantastic. It really, really is. And I think that this appeals to almost everybody. Anyone who, especially, if you're used to like violence and stuff like that, this movie was fantastic. It was so good to have a Marvel movie. Yes, it's in association with Marvel, but still a Marvel movie where it's just swearing left, right, and center. The obviously blatant like nudity. You got the literally people getting shot like through the head, the blood going everywhere, because if someone was to get shot in the current MCU, it would be off screen, apart from Daredevil. But yeah, it was so nice to see some violence again. And yeah, first Deadpool, so unique and just absolutely brilliant. I really think that this was a solid film. Coming in at number 16 is going to be another big one, and that is Titanic. Now, the reason I watched this movie is because I had seen every single movie on the top 10 highest grossing films of all time, except Titanic. This is something that I honestly didn't know what I was going into, because I kind of had my expectations kind of low, because of course everyone going to watch this movie knows that the boat is going to sink. The boat is going to unfortunately crash, but also I knew that Jack died. Of course, it's an iconic moment in movie history. Of course I knew that Jack died, but that doesn't make the film itself any less sad, because the way that you kind of connect with each character with certain parts of the boat, and especially the guy that built the boat, I think I sympathize with him the most, because it was absolutely fantastic how they ended that whole thing, where he was looking at the clock and he just looks. I forgot her name. It wasn't Jade. I forgot what her name was. Kate Winslet's character, and he says, "I'm sorry, I didn't build you a better boat," and that. Oh my god, that was so good. And the way that the actor delivered the line, I thought was fantastic. But yeah, something else unexpected in this movie was Maggie Smith. I didn't expect to see her here.
Something else unexpected is the amount of time I called the damn Titanic a freaking boat. It's a ship, you dumbass.
Because, it was also interesting to see her play like a really bitchy character. But yeah, I really thought that she was going to die, wishful thinking. But yeah, this movie was, it was hard to watch, and obviously half the movie is the boat sinking, but the half before that I thought was fantastic. It was a beautiful, beautiful movie. And then of course everything after that is nothing but heartbreak and sadness. It really, really was absolutely heartbreaking. It was so well done. And especially the part when after the boat is mostly submerged, and you just see all of the people frozen, and you see like children, you see babies. It was horrible to watch. It really, really was, because God, it was it's especially like, since it was a real thing. The Titanic was real, and that really, I think, just kind of made it hit a bit more. So yeah, I honestly, I can't praise this movie enough. It was absolutely fantastic. It really, really was. I thought it was a great story, and the way that they kind of told the story of the Titanic with with the main girl, like in the future, sorry, in the present technically. I thought it was really, really well done. The acting as well, absolutely exceptional. So yeah, Titanic. I'm so glad I didn't watch this movie when I was a kid and I waited to understand it at this age. I'm so happy. Coming in at number 15 is going to be Real Steel. I honestly, I didn't even want to watch this movie. I was just kind of going on Netflix, and then I see Hugh Jackman's face, and I see the word boxer, and I'm like, okay, and I just immediately clicked it. It was really, really good. I thought this movie was a great feel-good movie. It was funny seeing Hugh Jackman play a kind of, I wouldn't say a dick, but he was annoying at times. But yeah, I really liked the relationship with between him and his son. I thought it was great. I loved the robot. I thought the robot was absolutely fantastic. And you have Evangeline Lilly in this movie. She doesn't do much, but she has some great scenes, the scenes that she's in. But yeah, this movie is it's a really good feel-good film. And honestly, a good family film. I think that it was a pleasant surprise. I think that's the perfect description for it. So yeah, Real Steel. Absolutely fantastic. Coming in number 14 is going to be Kingsman Secret Service. This realistically should be much lower, but I laughed my ass off with this movie just because of Samuel L. Jackson and his lisp. Look, it probably wasn't meant to be this funny, but every single time this man spoke, and I'm not exaggerating, every single time he spoke, I just couldn't pay attention to him. I couldn't take him seriously. I burst out laughing with everything that he said. It was so funny. Like when he said "sit" and "bith," it was, oh god, it was so good. This movie I thought was just great. It was really, really good. Of course, you have the storyline with Eggsy and Merlin and all that. You even have Michael Caine in this movie, but god, Samuel L. Jackson, that character was just so good. It was so hilarious. And even the scene when Samuel L. Jackson does kill the Eggsy's mentor, I forgot, I'm so annoyed I forgot his name, but yeah, when he does kill him, I was like, oh my god, what? That was probably the most shocking death, or at least one of the most shocking deaths that I saw last year. That was really well done. This movie is absolutely hilarious, and I'm so happy that I watched it. Number 13 is one of the most heartbreaking movies on this list, and it is War for the Planet of the Apes. You have Rise, which was a really good entry, Dawn, which was an even better entry. So then when you get to War, especially with the way that Dawn ended, I was like, okay, War, of course, this movie is going to have a lot of action in it. But then I watched the film, and I was like, okay, this is not what I expected. Yes, it's of course showing the aftermath and kind of the consequences of war, but I find it strange that they didn't do the action part of the movie. Especially when the Planet of the Apes films, the only thing that people focus on with the titles is, of course, the one-word difference. And the one word in this case being war. War. You instantly think of fighting. Yes, I know they technically changed the of to for as well, but still, War for the Planet of the Apes was a slightly disappointing movie when I first watched it, but oh my god, this movie is amazing. It really, really is. It's just the only reason that it's not higher is because of the type of movie it is. It is very dark and depressing and sad, and you really don't want to watch it. Everything that I gave Alien 3 crap for is a positive on this movie. They just do such a great job. But something else that I have to say is that this movie, I know this is a big call, this is a massive call, especially when I watch the Transformers movies. I think that War for the Planet of the Apes has the best CGI out of any movie I've ever seen. Massive call, I know, but you cannot tell me that these apes were CGI. You cannot tell me that they were. The expressions on their faces, the way that they blend in with the environment, they don't look out of place. They don't look, they don't look cartoony. They don't, like super light and, fast and all this. It just looks amazing. I would believe that these were real apes. And it was absolutely fantastic. I don't know how they did the motion capture so well, but even just talking about the movie itself, of course, you have that horrific scene of when Caesar's family is killed, and you just see Woody Harrelson just turn around and be like, "Oh fuck, we killed the wrong one. Oh well," and then he just leaves. That was horrible, but of course, it's the ending. It's the ending that really gets you. But before I get to that, something that I did mention with the aliens segment is I hate when movies bring in a kid and the kid just won't talk. Like in Stranger Things, it was so infuriating. Even though, of course, she was a small kid, I don't care. I'm tired of this trope of them bringing in a kid only for them to not talk and then say something like 10 minutes or like 20 minutes after they're introduced. This, War for the Planet of the Apes, is a movie that finally did it, but it made sense. I was so happy. As soon as they took the kid and the kid wasn't talking, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, War is going to be one of these movies we have to deal with an insufferable silent child. But then once they revealed that the virus, the ALZ 113 that kind of just spread to everybody, that it changed and it removed their ability to speak, that's when I was like, okay, you saved it. You really saved it. But that made me really happy. And Nova was such a great character. She really was, especially when the gorilla that gave her a little flower and he got killed and she gave it to him. That actually really broke me.
Something else I'd like to just add before I start talking about the ending is that one thing I love about these movies is the progression in how Caesar's speaking ability develops. Because in the first movie, he basically only says no, and he sounds like really gruff, and then the second movie, he speaks like more clearly. But then in War, he's barely distinguishable from a person. It is absolutely phenomenal, especially when he says Cornelius's name. My God, it's just brilliant.
But you cannot like even match the ending scene, because the scene is absolutely horrific to watch, but it's so well done. It is, of course, the death of Caesar, and it really hits you because he was such a phenomenal character. He really was one of the best protagonists in recent filmmaking, and just to see him go out like that, being killed by the guy that he saved at the beginning of the movie, and then for him to die in probably the best way possible for him. You can tell he was just holding on that entire trip until they got to their sanctuary, they got to their freedom. His apes are now free, they're happy, nothing's gonna happen to them. And then he just slumps and starts telling Maurice, the apes are strong with or without me. Dude, that is the most horrific scene in this franchise, but it was so well done, especially since Maurice does speak here. And it's not like in Dawn where he said one word. He says, like, son will know who was father and what Caesar did for us. It was so good, and the way that the actor expressed it just through his voice, the sadness, it was fantastic. Caesar's death is a 10 out of 10 scene, and probably the most heartbreaking conclusion to any movie that I have seen, because that really broke me. It really did. So yeah, enough of this depressingness of talking about the death of Caesar. Let's just move on to the next one, shall we? Coming in at number 12, and this is a movie that I actually rewatched yesterday, and that is going to be one of my mom's favorite movies of all time, Gladiator. This movie is so damn good. I can't believe it. Now, I did watch the extended version. I haven't seen the regular version. But yeah, this movie is just fantastic. It really is. Maximus is a phenomenal protagonist. You really care for him. You care about the people around him. And it has one of the most horrific scenes of a film. And that is when, of course, Commodus orders the deaths, or orders the execution of Maximus's son and wife. That is such a horrible scene, And the thing is, when I watched the movie the first time, I don't know why I didn't pick up on that. I just thought, oh yeah, they're executing Maximus's wife and son. I was just more shocked by the fact that they trampled the 7-year-old child. That I wasn't actually paying attention. Only the second time I was like, this fucking prick is the one that ordered it. I hate him because the first time I hated him, of course, but I didn't really think that he was like the most unlikable person in the world until everything with his sister. But yeah, then you get to like me rewatching it. I was like, oh my god, this is one of the most infuriatingly frustrating, just most annoying but well-written villains in a film. Commodus, and this is the only thing I knew about Gladiator, is that Joaquin Phoenix plays the villain. He was so unlikable. You really hated him, but Joaquin Phoenix did such a good job at portraying that. And I'm going to be honest with you, the first time I watched this movie, until like 3/4 of the way into the movie, I honestly did not know if Joaquin Phoenix and oh shit, I forgot her name, his sister, I honestly didn't even know if that was his sister or his wife because of how he was acting with her. And I was like, oh god, please just don't do this. And yeah, it was oh god, it was horrible. But everything apart from that, everything with Maximus, holy shit, dude, what a story, especially the way it ends. What a phenomenal story. It really was great. The way that he goes from winning in this like crappy little building, you know, like obviously it's meant to look like the Colosseum, it was a really shitty building, to just going up and up and up in terms of like how much respect the audience has for him. And you get to the Roman Colosseum and everyone is just chanting Maximus, Maximus, Maximus. You can't help but join in. It's brilliant. And then of course you get to the ending where unfortunately Maximus does die. And I know that this is about war, and war of course has a very similar ending, but this movie, I appreciated Maximus's death the second time around. Like, I appreciated him more the second time around. And probably the part that gets me the most is when the Emperor's sister says, like, you know, who, like, you know, honor him. And then Senator Gracchus, I think his name was, he was like, who's going to help me carry him? And then all the guys that were on his team that were, you know, part of Proximo's like, gladiator squad, whatever you want to call it, they all come forth to carry Maximus. It was a fantastic ending, but mainly the thing that just sold me completely was the ending shot of him finally being able to see his family again. And it was amazing. I can't fault this movie at all. The only reason that it's not higher is because, of course, with the scenes with Joaquin Phoenix and his sister, it's so uncomfortable to watch. That's the only thing about it. And god damn it, man, this movie is just so good. So yeah, Gladiator is an absolute classic and a movie that should be remembered until the end of time. Coming in at number 11 is going to be X-Men First Class. Now, this actually was my favorite X-Men movie for a while, but like, there's so much to love about this movie. There's so much to love about it. Mainly Magneto. I love Magneto. I absolutely love him. Michael Fassbender. This was the first movie that I watched with him, and it made me love him. It really did. I thought he was an amazing Magneto. And, you know, I mentioned in the Revenge of the Sith part, where a character's motivations, well, their personality just kind of changes so suddenly when you know they're meant to be the bad guy in the future. X-Men First Class kind of handles it perfectly, because while yes, Magneto is on the opposite end of Charles as far as this war between the humans and the mutants go, those two have always had an immense amount of respect for each other. And even with X-Men The Last Stand, when Charles does get killed, you can see Magneto and how upset he was in that moment. It was, you know, and even like when Pyro says something about Professor X, you know, he's like, Charles Xavier did more for mutants than you can ever imagine. And in this movie, you really see them come so close. They get so close to each other, and they become like really, really good friends. And I love both performances, from Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy. I think they do fantastic jobs at being younger versions of Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen. They are honestly like neck and neck with those two as far as their performances and characters go. They really were brilliant. Mystique, of course, this is the beginning of the Mystique part of X-Men. Jennifer Lawrence just kind of overtakes things. But this movie was it was absolutely fantastic. A really, really good introduction to the X-Men. And this is really the first movie in the franchise where it feels like X-Men. It's not Wolverine and the X-Men. I say, as much as I love Wolverine, I really, really love him. But it was nice to have kind of an X-Men team film. So, yeah. Hopefully, the next time we get the X-Men with the MCU, they don't kill Darwin and he does something important. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, yes, I honestly could easily put this below like War. I could put this below War for the Planet of the Apes. But Deadpool and Wolverine, I think, just surprised me. Because I went into this movie so excited for all the cameos and references, mainly the X-Men things, which, by the way, not a single Fox X-Men character. What the fuck? That is the main reason that it's not higher, is because I watched the entire X-Men franchise for this, and I didn't get any of the X-Men. Wolverine does not count, neither does Gambit. But this movie really just said, oh, really, you were expecting that to be the whole movie? No. This movie is called Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to be focusing on the relationship between the two. And fair enough, because they did that amazingly. The story with Deadpool, I'll be honest, is not as good as the first two movies. Here, it's just kind of, I want to matter. And I was like, really? Really? That's what we're doing here? But then, of course, you have Wolverine. And Wolverine, I thought, was much more interesting. No offense to Deadpool. I'm not saying he's uninteresting, but I just love Wolverine more. This movie really just showed that Hugh Jackman has perfected how to play Wolverine. You cannot tell me that there are like the many performances in comic book films that beat Hugh Jackman as Wolverine here. The man is taken right out of the comics and put onto the screen. I don't really care about comics much, but this was fucking flawless the way that they did this. Hugh Jackman is just so good in this movie. But the main thing I loved about Deadpool and Wolverine, not just the story between the two, is not just the cameos, but it's the fact that it is a somewhat equal movie. It is Deadpool as much as it is Wolverine. It's like 55% Deadpool because, of course, the movie starts with him, so naturally he's going to have more screen time. 55% Deadpool, 45% Wolverine. And it's so good. The way that they did it, neither of them felt neglected. Neither of them felt like they were just pushed to the side. But yeah, the main reason that this movie isn't higher is because the humor, I think, is nowhere near as good as the first two Deadpool films. Here you get a lot of more kind of humor of its time. You got Deadpool saying, like, let this man cook. And, I'm already in the void. I'm not trying to get cancelled again. Things like that. It's not going to age as well as the first Deadpool movie, where it was mainly references to, like, the X-Men films. But, yeah, it was still hilarious. Don't get me wrong. It was still really, really good. But, yeah, it just wasn't as funny. But of course, you have so many moments here that are just worth cheering for. You got Blade, you got Elektra, you got Gambit, who I mainly cheered for. You got the Human Torch, but then of course, you have the Wolverine mask, and it is just beautiful. So yeah, I think that the pure hilarity of this movie is the main reason why it's so high and above things like Gladiator. But of course, as far as films go, this is nowhere near the movie that Gladiator or War for the Planet of the Apes is. But yeah, it was made to entertain me, and I was entertained. I was laughing, I was having so much fun. That's what this movie was made for, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Coming in at number 9, we have what is, in my opinion, the best X-Men movie, and it is Days of Future Past. This was fantastic. You have, oh God, what an amazing story this was, because this, of course, blended the original X-Men trilogy with the first class cast. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, I do kind of think we needed more time with the newer, like the younger X-Men before getting to this movie. But still, I love this movie regardless. If you had a film in between, like you had First Class, another movie with the younger X-Men, and then Days of Future Past, best comic book trilogy ever. There's no competition. That would be the best comic book trilogy of all time. But we had this, which, oh my God, this was amazing. It really, really was. And you have some phenomenal moments in here. Of course, you have the iconic kitchen scene with Quicksilver, and that scene is just so much fun to watch. Evan Peters in the role was just so good. And now I understand, because I watched WandaVision when it came out. Now I understand why people were so upset when he appeared in WandaVision but ended up just being a boner joke. So I can understand why now, because I would have been pissed too. But yeah, probably my favorite moment of the movie, if I'm gonna be honest with you, is when Charles Xavier meets Charles Xavier, and you have him being able to help James. You have Sir Patrick Stewart's Professor X helping James McAvoy's Professor X. It is a beautiful scene. It's so good. When you have, just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean it's lost, doesn't mean they're lost forever. What a phenomenal line. So much so that they bring it back in Doctor Strange The Multiverse of Madness. Again, watch that before I watched this, so didn't understand it at the time, but my God, Days of Future Past really just set everything right, because you, of course, retcon things that happened in X-Men The Last Stand, thank God. But yeah, you get a somewhat happy ending with the current X-Men, with Wolverine, with Jean Grey, Cyclops, Professor X, all of that. And then of course you have the younger cast sort of going off in their own way, which that's kind of how I envisioned it. Is it created two separate timelines. You have the happy ending, and then you have the James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender ending. Because with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, continuity just goes out the window. Like there's absolutely no way that those movies can be connected to the original X-Men franchise. So yeah, that's how just I think about it. Is you have that timeline with the happy ending, and then you have the Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix timeline. So yeah, Days of Future Past, absolutely amazing kind of Avengers Endgame movie. One thing I want to add is I love the designs of the Sentinels in this movie. I don't know why, there's surprisingly a lot of people who really hate this design and think that the basic robot design from The Last Stand's opening was better. If I'm going to be honest with you, I know everyone has opinions, but I don't understand how you could pick that. It literally just looks like if you went on Google and typed in robot, that's what will come up. There's no style to those designs whatsoever. I don't care if they're closer to the comics. The ones in Days of Future Past are freaking scary, man. They are scary as robots. So yeah, Days of Future Past, what a great X-Men movie. And to be honest with you, this is where it should have ended. It really should have ended here, because my God, this was a great conclusion to this franchise. Coming in number 8 is going to be Life of Pi. Now, I originally started watching this movie with the intention of not finishing it, because I was watching this for educational purposes, and I didn't read part of the book. I didn't read the first part of the book, and I, of course, watched the movie. But I ended up getting really invested in the movie, and even though I was way past the part that I needed to be at, I finished the movie because I was just that invested in it. This movie really blew me away, because I am, like, again, the least religious Indian there is in the world, but just to see how Pi like follows, Christianity, Islam and Hinduism, it's a beautiful story. And of course you had the whole thing with Richard Parker, and that is just such a fantastic thing in its own right, how he tames Richard Parker. But yeah, how you're able to make a full film. I know it's based on the book. I have read the book, but a full film just of the boy on a raft stuck with a tiger Doesn't sound that interesting, but it's genuinely fantastic how they're able to make a full movie of that. I love this movie. I thought it was fantastic, and I honestly, when I first watched it, most of what's above it wasn't there. I genuinely considered putting it at number one, just because of the metaphors, the idioms here, like all of this amazing imagery created in this movie. It was exceptional. It really, really was. The story as well. Again, I watched this before I finished the book. I also think it was just, the story was fantastic, but I also think having an unbiased opinion, I think that the ending of the movie is better than the book, because I didn't let my opinion of the movie influence how I felt about the book. If anything, it made me like the book more. But I think that how also this is just Jurassic World like spin off, because you have Masrani and Mills. You have the author here who does figure out that Pi's story was okay. So the cook was the hyena, the sailor was the zebra, and you were the tiger. You have that happen. I think it made a lot more sense than in the book, where it was the Japanese investigators who found out that the stories were the same. They just substituted certain things. But yeah, I really love this movie. I thought it was fantastic. And even though I know very little about religion and stuff like that, I mean, I'm Hindu, and he's also Hindu, but I know very little about that stuff. I loved everything about this movie. So yeah, Life of Pi, 11 out of 10 film. This was fantastic. Going to number 7, we have the second last movie that I watched last year, and that is going to be The Wild Robot. I don't know what to expect with this movie. All I knew is that everyone was ranting and raving about how amazing it was, and oh boy, it's justified. This movie was exceptional. I don't know how you can watch this movie and not tear up at least 3 times. It was so good. It was amazing. The way that they handled Roz and her relationship with Brightbull. Obviously all the lessons with parenting and, accepting the parent and all of this, it was fantastic. Really, really good. And just the first part that got me, the first part that had me in tears already, is when Roz, in the beginning of the movie, is going to all the different animals trying to find out what her task is. And then all the animals run away. And then just in the middle of this forest, she just sits down. I was like, oh my god, that is so heartbreaking. Why would you put that in the movie? I just want to go and give her the biggest hug ever, even though she won't know what a hug is. But yeah, oh god, the way that this movie was done, it was absolutely fantastic. And I hope that it wins for Best Animated Film at the Oscars, because this movie was just so good. It really, really was. I can't fault it in any way. The main characters were perfect. The side characters were perfect. The animation was gorgeous. The music was amazing. I can't fault it at all. And even, towards the end of the movie, when you do get the company sort of come after Roz, yes, it's a change, because of course now you are like tense, you're scared. It's not such a tonal shift that it kind of ruins the experience. It's still an amazing movie, especially with the way it ends. This is one of the most beautiful stories that came out of 2024, and really just makes me look at DreamWorks and say, you guys, I hate you even more, because you were able to make this, but you couldn't do Kung Fu Panda 4 properly. What the fuck? Coming in number 6 is going to be Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Again, a movie that I just rewatched maybe 2 or 3 days ago. This was the most badass movie of last year. Oh my god. Now, I have not played a single Sonic game. I never played a Sonic game. All I knew about Sonic before watching the first Sonic film in 2020 was that he is a blue hedgehog who is super fast. That's all I knew. That is all I knew about it. And I didn't have any expectations for that first movie, just because, again, never played Sonic, never had any connection to the character, don't really care. I just watched it because the trailers look kind of funny. And that first movie is yes, of course, it is the formulaic friendly alien comes to Earth. There's a scientist coming after him. The only reason I like this more than most movies like that is because the scientist going after him is played by Jim Carrey. I love Jim Carrey, so that first movie was good. The second movie absolutely blew me away. I loved it. And then you get to Sonic 3. And this was the Across the Spider-Verse of this year for me, in the sense that I was excited for this movie, but it wasn't like my most anticipated film of the year. It wasn't even close to it. And then it just blew me away. This was easily the best Sonic film. The movies just get better and better and better. This film was amazing. It really, really was. The only thing that is stopping it from being a flawless film, in my opinion, is Sonic's one-liners are not as funny as they were in the previous movies. And there's also just like a lot of, well, that just happened kind of jokes. Where he's like, do you think we'd be that stupid to keep the key card? Yep, we'd be that stupid. Oh, nice, nice giant marble, real scary. It actually is real scary. Things like that. That just makes me cringe. But apart from that, the movie was flawless. I'm so happy Jim Carrey came back for this film, because the chemistry between Jim Carrey and Jim Carrey is absolutely phenomenal. It was hilarious. I was dying laughing with everything that Jim Carrey said in this movie. It was fantastic, and especially the way that he played Ivo Robotnik and Gerald Robotnik kind of in a different way, I thought was fantastic. And you have, the only dance scene to possibly rival Deadpool's dance to Bye 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 from Deadpool and Wolverine. You have both Robotniks dancing to Galvanized by the Chemical Brothers. And this was just the funniest flippin' scene of the movie. If I'm going to be honest, that's probably like in the top 3 of my favorite scenes of the movie. I absolutely love it. It's so good. And this movie was just so badass because of one character, and that is Shadow the Hedgehog. My god, he was done perfectly, because again, never played the Sonic game, but of course I know of Shadow's backstory. It is a very iconic backstory, and they did it really well, in my opinion. I thought that it was absolutely heartbreaking. And this movie also has undoubtedly the best line from any movie last year, and that, I think you know what it is. It is, of course, "The light shines even when the star is gone." That is absolutely amazing writing, because of course you have the death of Maria, and then after Sonic and Shadow have their super fight, which, by the way, Super Shadow versus Super Sonic was absolute hype. I screamed when I saw Super Shadow. But you have that fight, and then you have Sonic telling him Maria may be gone, but your love for her will always remain. And with the sun coming up on them, and him repeating the whole the light shines line, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And having them team up with the freaking super, both of them being super, it was hype. This movie is the definition of hype. It was flawless. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And also the CGI was just exceptional. Like, these things look so good. Yeah. My god, I can't praise this movie enough. I really, really can't. I thought it was just absolutely amazing. It really, really was. And as far as I didn't get time to do this video, I'm sorry. But ranking all the movies of last year, I genuinely considered putting it at number 1. But there's one movie that is slightly higher, which unfortunately did take the cake. So, sorry Sonic 3. It was very close. You have an amazing story and your hilarious movie. Badass movie. But you're not number 1 yet. Coming in at number 5 is going to be The Greatest Showman. Look, right. The Lion King is my favorite animated. It's tied with Coco for my favorite animated film of all time. It is like my 4th favorite film of all time. I love the songs in it. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I think that The Greatest Showman has possibly the best soundtrack from any film. The songs in this movie are amazing. They really, really are. And you can just listen to them. You have The Greatest Show, Come Alive, The Other Side, Never Enough, Rewrite the Stars, This Is Me. from now on. You have so many fantastic songs here. And, apart from the songs, the movie itself is just exceptional. That's the only word I can use to describe this film, is exceptional. You have some fantastic writing here. And probably my favorite thing about it is that it doesn't waste any time. Mainly in the beginning, with the opening, within the first 10 or 15 minutes, you establish, who Charity is. Obviously you know that the main character is P.T. Barnum. You establish his love interest. He's married. He's had kids with her in the first 15 minutes of the movie. And I honestly can't praise the film enough for that, because you have a lot of movies that kind of spend so long, an infuriating amount of time establishing this stuff. But yeah, this movie didn't waste time with the beginning, and I absolutely loved it, especially on the rewatch. This is one of my favorite films of all time. This is absolutely exceptional. And yeah, like I can't fault it. I'm sorry. This is, in my opinion, a perfect film. Coming in at number 4, and this is my number 1 movie of last year. And you could very well say that it's bias, but number 4 is going to be Transformers 1. I had very low expectations for this movie. I think everyone did, because the trailer was absolute garbage. It was just showing off these really terrible jokes, and it just looked like a stupid kids comedy. It really, really did. With the second trailer, they tried to appeal more to Transformers fans, and that's where I was like, okay, maybe I was a bit harsh. This trailer is making me more interested. And then I saw the reviews of this movie, people who had watched it, and they were like, guys, the trailers didn't do it justice. This movie is exceptional. It is the best Transformers movie. And I was just sitting there like, there's no way. There's actually no way. Like, I love Transformers, but there's no way that this movie is being hailed as the best Transformers movie, right? Oh boy, did I eat my words here, because I went to go watch this movie as soon as it came out, and my God, I can't believe how amazing this was. It really, really was phenomenal. You of course have the backstory, one of the most iconic rivalries in all of fiction, and that is Optimus Prime and Megatron. And the first 20 minutes of the movie is, of course, the kind of like I like to call this the comedic segment, because of course this is where everything is fun, everything's happy, everything's normal. So of course this is where most of the jokes are. But then once we get to the scene with Alpha Trion, that's when the movie takes a dramatic change in tone. And it was insane, because when D16 said the line, "No, I want to kill him," you just heard the theater go dead quiet. And it was amazing. As a Transformers fan, this movie, it knows what it's doing. The amount of details and little Easter eggs and nods to all the different continuities of Transformers was amazing. Brian Tyler, of course, returning. He did do the score for Transformers Prime, and does throw in little sprinkles of tracks from that show in this movie. It was just amazing, especially that, like, I believe it's called The Fall, when D16 does let Orion Pax go. That music, my God, it's amazing. And you have the scene of the year. Let's be honest, it is the best scene of anything from last year, when Optimus and Megatron are being reborn, or they are being born at the same time. You have the death of Orion Pax, and the literal death of Orion Pax, the metaphorical death of D16, and the birth of Optimus Prime and Megatron happening simultaneously, intercutting with each other. D16 stealing Megatronus's name, taking it for himself, and proclaiming himself to be Megatron. And then you have Orion Pax, you have Alpha Trion, give him the name of Optimus Prime, revive him, give him the Matrix of Leadership. It was amazing. And of course, goddamn, I know I've been talking about this movie for a while, but just hearing after so long, hearing the words, "I am Megatron," I couldn't help but scream. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but cheer. I love Megatron. The Michael Bay films, I know they underutilized him, but just by watching those movies, he was my favorite Transformer for many years. And it was 7 years since Megatron was in cinemas. You know, Transformers The Last Night was the last time we got to see him on the big screen. So just to hear Brian Tyree Henry scream that line, "I am Megatron," it was amazing, perfect delivery. And then of course, you know, you have Orion Pax and Alpha Trion going, "Arise!" And then you have the music cut out and he says, "Optimus Prime." My God, it was so good. It was so good. This movie, it's exceptional. I can watch this forever. I love Transformers 1. As a Transformers fan, this is what we have been wanting. And it is such a shame. I hope that every single person in charge of the marketing of this movie gets fired. I hope they get fired, and I hope they become homeless, because this was a crime against humanity to market this movie the way that they did, because this deserved to make more money. It really, really did. For movies like The Last Night to make 720 mil, and then for this to not even crack like 200 mil, come on, guys. The marketing team, do better. You know, I can't even say do better, because we're probably not going to get another Transformers movie, but yeah. Transformers 1, the most exceptional and amazing and phenomenal movie of 2024. And now we have entered the top 3, and this top 3, guys, this top 3 is amazing. Number 3 is going to be Rise of the Planet of the Apes. You don't understand, I've been waiting all year to talk about these movies, mainly this top 3. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Now, I did not know what I was getting myself into with this franchise, because I know that there's obviously the original Planet of the Apes movies, there's the 2000 Tim Burton movie, but this was the new continuity, because Kingdom was out in cinemas right now. I say right now, at the time, and I thought, you know what, let me watch these 3 movies, because I didn't expect much from them. I just expected this kind of futuristic sci-fi, like out of this world kind of thing. I didn't expect it to actually be so grounded and take place on Earth. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is it's a flawless movie. It is amazing. It is absolutely phenomenal. It gave me everything I wanted, everything I didn't know I wanted. You know, you have so many great moments here. Of course, we'll get to the moment just now, but just so many small moments, like when they are like in the city and the 2 cop cars are going towards Maurice and Buck. And I was like, oh my God, are we going to get a team up between the gorilla and the orangutan? And then those 2 look at each other and then they team up to take down the cop cars. Dude, I was jumping from excitement. It was so cool. It was amazing. But of course, you have, honestly, the portal scene from Avengers Endgame is still number 1 as far as my favorite movie scene of all time. This is number 2. Where you have, what a phenomenal scene of the handler, of course, trying to deal with Caesar, who has escaped, and then Caesar grabs his hand, and of course Malfoy, I'm just going to call him Malfoy because I don't know his name. Malfoy, you know, of course, he brings up the line of, you know, "Get your stinking paw off me, you damn dirty ape." I know it's a scene from the original. And then you just see the camera kind of focus up on Caesar, and Caesar just goes higher and higher, and then he just goes, "No!" And then it's silent. It's silent. You see the shock on Malfoy's face. You see the shock on Rodney's face. You see Buck, the gorilla, the most fearless of them all, the most intimidating, stare at Caesar with shock on his face. And then of course Caesar hits Malfoy and the music starts up again, and even still he's saying no, and then you just see Buck kind of going further and further away from the cage gate, and he's trembling. He's oh my God, it was amazing how they did this. The scene was flawless. It really, really was. For Buck to be so scared of Caesar, it was an exceptional moment. But even still, you know, this movie came out oh god, when was it? 2012, something like that, 2011. And you got some fantastic CGI here. Again, as I said, with War, that is, in my opinion, the best as far as the CGI goes, because the CGI obviously gets better with each movie. Rise of the Planet of the Apes had some amazing CGI. Like, these things looked real. They really, really did. And especially with the emotion on the actors' faces, I thought was brilliant. And yeah, I loved this movie from the beginning to the end. It was my most surprising film of the year, and I genuinely didn't know what to do with my life after that. Well, that's a lie, of course. There was one more thing I had to do once I watched this movie, and that was get to number 2 on the list, the second best movie of the year, and that is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Oh my god. I'll be honest with you, Rise shocked me so much. It surprised me so much that I genuinely had Rise above Dawn for a good few months. And I don't really regret that, because I still think that Rise is an amazing movie. But then Dawn is the definition of a perfect sequel. You take all the little side characters who were introduced in the previous movie, like Koba, and you just build on them. You develop them more, you flesh them out more. Dawn is an amazing film. It really, really is. It is perfect. There's nothing about this that I would change. And you have the antagonists here. Yes, of course you have Koba, but even with the humans, you have antagonists. I'm using the word antagonists intentionally. The main human antagonist in this movie is Dreyfus, played by Gary Oldman. And this character, obviously, with these movies, you think, okay, you're going to sympathize with the apes, you're going to hate the humans. But the thing is, here, you completely understand his motive, you understand why he's doing what he's doing. And, the same can be said for Koba, of course. But with Dreyfus, I think it was just so good that you have a human antagonist who you entirely sympathize with. And even, the scene when the power does come on in the town, you see him looking at the pictures of him and his family, and Gary Oldman just absolutely, like, the acting is amazing. Gary Oldman is a brilliant actor, and you just see him crying, and honestly, like, it makes you cry. It made me cry for sure, both times I saw it. And it's just so annoying that if Koba had just waited just a few more moments, for the power to go back, for the power to come back on, we could have avoided this entire mess. But yeah, I can't praise this movie enough. Even the main human characters, like Malcolm, you got Malcolm, you have his wife, his son. They were fantastic characters to follow. And I can't praise this movie enough, man. That third act is one of the most surprising third acts of any film I've seen. I did not expect it to go the way that it did. Even when Koba, it came in, and I didn't expect him to actually use the gun. I did not expect that, for him to just take the gun, swing it around. Oh my god, that scene was brilliant. But yeah, I can't praise this movie enough. This is one of the best sequels of all time, and I honestly can understand this being someone's favorite movie, because Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is one of the most unbelievable sequels to ever be made. I don't think I'm exaggerating. You understand both sides, your protagonist and your antagonist, both antagonists, and yeah, I honestly don't think that you can ever top this as far as Planet of the Apes movies go. And now, coming in at number 1, the best movie that I watched last year, and it was the first film that I went to go watch in the cinemas last year. It is going to be the reigning champion, 102 movies, the best one that I watched, the king of this list, Godzilla -1. I could not believe it when I first watched this movie. I was lost for words. I really, really was, because the MonsterVerse is what got me into Godzilla. I love the action. I don't care about the human characters. I think they're absolute, they're a waste of time. I just love watching the monsters fight each other. So then I looked at Godzilla Minus One's trailers, and I was like, this looks very human focused. Godzilla looks great. Godzilla looks good. Of course, I didn't know about the budget at the time. I don't know how low the budget was, but I was like, I'm not really interested in this movie. Until I heard everybody praise it like it was God's gift to man. You know, like how people act about The Godfather? That's how I saw people act about Godzilla Minus One. And I'm like, really? Interesting characters in a Godzilla movie. It kind of did turn me off with how it was, of course, in Japanese. It's not in English, because at the time, I don't think I had seen anything. Oh no, I saw Squid Game, but I hadn't seen many things that weren't dubbed. So I was really interested to see this, if I could watch this movie with subtitles. And my God, I'm so happy I watched this in the cinema. Godzilla Minus One is the best Godzilla movie there ever was, probably ever will be. And I can't believe that they did this. It is only the Japanese who can make a Godzilla film like this. What Godzilla was meant to be, what, the half of Godzilla's, the half of what his character normally was, is, not the hero, not humanity's savior, just the personification of the pain that Japan went through. And when you have a movie that is, like, its title alone is so genius, how can it not be number one? Godzilla Minus One, when you hear that title, you're like, what does minus one even mean? It's because, of course, after the bombings and everything, Japan was already in a horrific state. And then they're at like 0.0, and then Godzilla comes along and causes more pain and damage, and now their situation is at -1. I thought it's a genius title. This movie, I did actually do a review of it, but unfortunately it did get blocked. So, this is basically the review of it. I think that this movie has it has the best human characters of any Godzilla film, and it did something that I really never expected. It made me really love the human characters and hate Godzilla, because I know that Godzilla is normally a villain, but I've never hated him. But here I really, really hated this thing. I just never wanted it to show up. That's how good this movie is because most of us watching Godzilla movies, we're like, okay, when is Godzilla showing up? That's the reason I hate the 2014 movie, is because it takes so long for Godzilla to show up. Here, you love the human characters so much, you actually don't want Godzilla to show up, because you don't want him to cause them more pain and suffering. But it's phenomenal. It really is. And the movie is so good that I can actually confidently say you can remove Godzilla from this movie and it would still be a good movie. That is how you know it's a damn good Godzilla film. My God, everything from the opening to the end of the film is absolute perfection. Shikishima was a great protagonist. I love what they did with his character. He wasn't annoying, which is pretty shocking. I love Noriko as well, which is why I actually did tear up when I thought that she died in the cinema, and it was so good. That whole scene, which, by the way, I need to just talk about that sequence. That sequence alone was exceptional. Of when Godzilla has, of course, destroyed Tokyo already. Oh, not Tokyo. Sorry, it was Ginza. That's right. I don't know why I'm saying Tokyo. He already destroyed the buildings in Ginza, and then you just see the light start in his tail and the one spike come up, and you just see the dread on the people's faces, and the breath just keeps charging and charging and charging and charging, and you see the people, panicking, starting to run, and you're like, Godzilla, please don't do this, because yes, most times when Godzilla does his atomic breath, you're like, oh yes, here we go, we're gonna get the atomic breath. Here, it was like, please don't do this. Please don't hurt the human characters. We actually care for the humans. Please don't do the atomic breath. It's a scene of dread, of pain, and that's what was so phenomenal about it. Is just you have that entire scene, especially with the music building up, and it intercuts with the people and the shock on their faces, and you just have Godzilla kind of breathing, and then as soon as the spikes slam down, his entire body jerks forward, and then the atomic breath happens, and it does create, of course, a mushroom cloud, of course, very painful imagery, and of course, I believe this was like what, two years or something like that after the bombings, which of course was a mushroom cloud. So I thought the imagery there was fantastic, but the main thing that I wanted to highlight there is something that kind of goes unnoticed, is that Godzilla jerks forward, like he, when the spikes slam, he like gets pushed forward. It shows how powerful his atomic breath is. His atomic breath is more powerful than his physical body. He is not able to fully control it. That's what I loved about it. And I'd also like to say that the music was fantastic, but also the roar of Godzilla. It was so loud, but it was brilliant. And I actually did walk into the cinema early because they were still playing the credits from the previous showing. And then the credits ended, and I just heard this loud ass Godzilla roar at the end of the credits. I was like, oh my god, that jump scared me more than anything. So, yeah, Godzilla -1 is a flawless movie. It is, this I would confidently say, is God's gift to man. I can't fault it at all. You have flawless visuals. That is why this movie won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, with only a budget of probably about 10-12 million. Flawless visuals, amazing human characters, a hateable Godzilla, and oh god, this really, I can go on about this movie for ages, and I mean I have at this point, but yeah, I can't fault Godzilla -1, and that is why it is undoubtedly the best film that I watched in 2024. So yeah, that is finally the end of this video. Please let me know your thoughts. Actually, I don't know why I'm asking you, because I know there's going to be Star Wars fans who are going to absolutely rip me to pieces. But yeah, please just let me know your thoughts on everything. Mainly, the top of the list, because of course these are the movies that I praise a lot. So I would like to know your thoughts on it. And yeah, this is going to be very controversial, but yeah, please just let me know your thoughts on everything down in the comments down below. And if you did enjoy this movie, I'm not even going to say video, if you did enjoy this movie, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.